It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Sunday evening edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course. You're muted or something. Something happened. Can't hear you. Mike is fucked up. He must have touched something. No. Nope. Gonna have to go exit and come back in. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with Russell's equipment. He's blurry too. How's that for an intro, everybody? Keaton Weiss here by myself, apparently. It's working fine before. Interesting. Funny how that happened. Well, hey, thanks everybody for being here tonight. Appreciate all of you. Got a great crowd in here for the program tonight. 766 strong in the Rumble chat, 764 strong in the YouTube chat. Hit that like button wherever you're at. Hit that subscribe button wherever you're at. Hit that follow button, all that good stuff. Coming off a very eventful weekend in New York City. Both Russ and I spoke at Jose Vega and Diane Sayre's peace rally and concert.
Yeah,
that was
that
Saturday.
Should do it, right?
There you are. Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
Just saying, very eventful weekend. We both spoke at Jose's peace rally and concert on Saturday. Yep. Russell spoke at the Operation Dawn brunch this morning. Very, very long weekend. And a very long week coming up. So I just want to go over the schedule for this week.
Hardcore, man. Hardcore.
Pretty hardcore.
Semper Fi, gung-ho, gung-ho.
That's right. Russ and I will be co-hosting the Jimmy Dore Show tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on all of Jimmy's channels. We'll, of course, be back here on Tuesday at 2 p.m. for our regularly scheduled show. We will be hosting the Jimmy Dore Show again on Wednesday, 6 p.m., 3 p.m. Eastern, which means we do have to push back our film club screening to Halloween night, which will be 8 p.m.
Appropriate enough.
Our film club screening of They Live will be Halloween nights. Now, I will be busy with the kiddos on Halloween night, of course, and so I will likely join that stream in progress. We're going to try to wrangle a special co-host for that stream with Russ to at least start things off, and then I will sign on in progress since we will be going as the Mario Brothers. My two twins are going to be the Mario Brothers. I'm going to be Donkey Kong. My wife Amanda is going to be Princess Peach. And then our little one, our little guy, Augie, is going to be the Toad, the nice talking mushroom guy. Got him a cute little mushroom hat. So he's going to look great. He's probably going to steal the show.
He's going to have absolutely no idea what's happening.
What's that?
He's going to have absolutely no idea what's happening.
No idea, but he's going to look good. He's going to look good. We got him a very cute costume. So that'll be fun. But that's the schedule this week. And then, of course, regular show Sunday. Our election preview show will be Sunday. And then a week from Tuesday is the big day. We're starting. Yeah. We're going to start at 6:30. I think we should probably start at 6 just so it's a big round number. And go all night. All night on election night. So that is the schedule. Pretty crazy.
All night long.
That's right. It is going to be quite something. But today was quite something. So before we start with the segments, Russ, you got to upload your video again because you had to sign out.
Oh, crap. All right. Well. That'll just take a second.
Yes, big gay rights rally at Madison Square Garden going on right now.
Crazy.
It's inspiring.
It's crazy.
To see. It's inspiring to see. You know, I feel like MAGA. They were the last people out of the closet, and so it's great that they're able to finally be who they are. And I mean that in all sincerity. You know, it's this controversial thing to say it. I think at this point, MAGA is obviously a gay movement, and I don't mean that in any negative way whatsoever. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. That's fantastic.
Men loving men, baby.
Yeah, it's a big man love party at Madison Square Garden.
I haven't seen that many chaps since I went to see the Searchers at the Revival.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So I caught a little bit of street life there, just a little bit with the demands of our schedules. There was no way I could really embed and hang out there for long, but I caught a little bit of street life. So just a couple of minutes of flavor of the scene outside Madison Square Garden.
Yep.
For spacious skies, or ample waves of gray, for purple mountains' majesty,
Make America safe again. Make America healthy again. No tax on tips. No tax on overtime. No men and women's sports. God bless America.
Fortunately, and then they have to tell the people that the judges are in the pocket. I mean, isn't that the reality?
Yeah, but we don't have Trump Polio, you're the best man in the motherfucking world. That's why she put him in the American flag. That was your greatness, but y'all was bitching at him like a bunch of little girls.
Not me, buddy.
To take him out and put a coke fiend. To take him out and put a coke fiend.
Where is this rally?
To take him out and put a coke fiend. To take him out and put a coke fiend. To take him out and put a coke fiend. Now you know why he's on the American flag. That's why y'all still stuck on stupid. That's true what the motherfucker said. You cannot.
And there's the Israel flag.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, there you go. Your video's a little choppy. It's because your Wi-Fi. There's something. Your Wi-Fi's slow tonight.
It seemed a little like that on my phone when I had to upload the video. I don't know what's going on. I pay enough for this fucking to have good Wi-Fi. These motherfuckers. Yeah, it's a scene, and you look at that little clip of video, and yeah, this is like a satire of a future dystopian America that might have been made by Gore Vidal in the 70s.
Right.
Like it really is just RoboCop shit. You know, it's this cartoon nationalism, and just all of these strange conjoining elements of all of these bizarre strains of American culture. You know, it's like you have elements of Tom Robbins, and you know, you could see him creating the RFK Jr. Make America Healthy Again thing in one of his novels, having that going on in the background with Donald Trump, this, you know, billionaire man of the people. It's just yeah, it looks like a collapsing empire. That's what it looks like. People driving around in pickup trucks with Donald Trump painted on the side. Like, yeah, it was a scene, man. It was a scene. And that guy felt very strongly about RFK. He felt very strongly that RFK had been displaced.
Oh, yeah?
Replaced him with a coke fiend.
Coke fiend.
According to him.
Well, we will have more to say about the Trump rally at Madison Square Garden tomorrow. Obviously, we're going to be covering that fairly extensively on the Jimmy Show. And so we will get right into the topics at hand tonight. You all right over there?
Yeah, swallowed wrong.
All right, cool.
I hate when that happens.
All right, folks. We are going to get right into our segments for tonight. Russ, if the Wi-Fi doesn't straighten out, you may have to restart it and come back in. What I might do is I might play.
Is it that bad?
Well, it's just you're really
like
grainy.
it's like I can't tell. Like for me,
you
it
can't
looks
tell.
fine.
Yeah, you can't tell when it's your Wi-Fi. You wouldn't be able to tell. It's just a hardware issue. But what I could do is we could bump your tour segment up to second while you restart that. That might be the way to go. So you
reboot the whole Wi-Fi?
Yeah. Well, how long does that take? Probably about 5-10 minutes.
Can take time.
Jake says clear the video. That's an idea. Well, I don't think that's it, but I will do that. I will clear some video. All right, cool. We will figure it out as we go. Jeremy Lafrado, folks, is home. He is back in the United States, and he sat for an interview with, I don't want to say his boss. I don't know what their arrangement is, but he's a contributor to the Gray Zone, and so Max Blumenthal interviewed him when he got back. So here he is detailing his treatment and his experience in custody in Israel.
Confinement, there was probably in solitary confinement, there was probably maybe 150 prisoners that were in the jail with me. They were separated from me. They were all Palestinian. I was the only American. I was the only white person, from what I could tell. It was me and all Palestinians. And I was held in solitary confinement for 3 days. And I was given 1 cup of chocolate pudding over the course of 3 days. That was all the food I was given. And I was given maybe 1 or 2 tiny little plastic cups of water during the 3 days. I would ask for more water. They would act like they did not hear me. I would ask for water, and then they would just say no. And at one point, the embassy apparently sent a social worker to check on me. And I thought, like, this is a great development. Someone's going to
the U.S. embassy.
Yes, apparently.
Okay. And this social worker were they American or Israeli or?
The social worker was Israeli, and the social worker introduced themselves. And I thought to myself, like, a kind of a sigh of relief, like, okay, this person's at least going to give me water. And her first question was, why did you hurt Israel? You hurt Israel. And I was like, this is the person who's here to check on me is berating me because she's seeing my paper outside of my cell that I gave information to the enemy during wartime.
So what a nightmare. So you're there, you're being tortured, you're being deprived food, deprived water. You hear the Americans have sent someone from the embassy to check on you. You think, okay, finally someone is going to help me out. Meanwhile, they send some shit-breathing Yenta to come in there and berate you even more.
Why are you hurting Israel?
Why did you hurt Israel?
You hurt Israel.
Chuck Schumer's sister-in-law. Why were you hurting Israel? Why'd you have to do this to Israel? Did you think what you did to Israel? God, as if that couldn't get even worse.
It's not nice to be self-hating, mister.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not nice to be self-hating. That's how you got in this mess. Wow.
So the social worker, who was apparently, Israeli, but sent by the embassy to check on me, is treating me like a terrorist, did not offer me any food, did not offer me any water, only asked why I hurt Israel and if I love Israel. And this conversation is happening. She's outside the cell. She's opening the steel slide to ask me these questions, and then she leaves. So that was the only type of care that the embassy gave me. They sent me an Israeli to ask me why I hurt Israel.
So you're
only
in solitary
in the Middle
confinement.
East.
They're basically starving you, depriving you of water, as they do to Palestinians.
Mm-hmm.
Did the U.S. embassy provide you with any other assistance other than that social worker who basically interrogated you?
No.
So the U.S. Embassy did nothing for you at that point.
They did absolutely nothing. They knew I was an American citizen. They knew I was from New York. They probably knew because they are. I would assume they can read. They can see that the charges are bogus, and still they do nothing for me except send me an Israeli to interrogate me further and call that person a social worker.
Wow.
Wow.
That is pretty incredible. That is pretty incredible stuff. I mean, as Russ said, only democracy in the Middle East, our key ally. Our key ally. Now, you know, of course, Jeremy did not do anything wrong, even by their standards. He did not violate the military censor. That's why 2 Israeli judges said he needed to be let go. He was being wrongfully held. That's why the Israeli police, when they finally did let him go, basically how they left things with him was, get out of here, kid. You know, which is what the mob does after they rough somebody up, right? They rough somebody up, but they don't want to go all the way. Get out of here, kid. Don't come back, right?
That's you on this block again, you're dead.
Exactly. Just absolute gangsterism. And, there would have perhaps been a word or two said about this in mainstream outlets had they done this to a Washington Post reporter or to a CNN reporter.
Right.
When it's the gray zone, who's going to advocate for them, really? I mean, they're an independent media outlet. This was raised. This came up at one of the Count Morlock State Department hearings. It wasn't with Morlock himself. It was the other guy, the short guy, Fat Sagar, as he's called here in our space. They just basically punted. And so, it's just amazing to hear a guy like that, the ordeal that he had to go through. And then the cherry on top is, they send the social worker from the embassy, and she comes there, to guilt trip you even further through a hole in a cage.
Why did you hurt Israel?
Yeah, just a nightmare.
Right, this reminds me of when I was in Hebrew school. I've told you this story. I liked Elvis, and so the Hebrew school teachers thought I shouldn't like Elvis because he's not connected to the cause of Israel in any way. Like this is how you're supposed to evaluate celebrities. What have they done for Israel? And they go, you should listen to Neil Sedaka.
Yeah.
He sells Israeli savings bonds. So, this is the measure of artistic greatness.
Right.
He sells Israeli savings bonds. These people are just absolutely sick and deranged. And hey, he's a young guy in good health. He could do that 3 days, but you never know. You never know, man. What would they have done if he dropped dead? The United States, God forbid, the United States would do fucking nothing.
Right.
They do nothing. They'd say, this was a tragic incident. Yes, we're looking into it. That's what they would say.
Israel's doing their own investigation. They'll get back to us.
They're doing their own investigation. We're not sure who was responsible. They're questioning the guards who were holding him. They'll try to pass the buck vaguely, like, these a
failure of management, logistics,
Right, exactly. And fortunately, he was in good enough shape because you could kill somebody not giving them water for 3 days.
Oh yeah,
like 3 days is the accepted.
Yeah, he said he
limit.
had a small cup of water, and that was it. Yeah,
and that was it. That's the accepted limit of what the human body can endure. 3 days without water. Right. It was right up to that limit.
Yeah, no, very, very dangerous stuff. Well, we're glad he's back to tell his story, and we should certainly hope that he makes the rounds.
God bless him, man, because these guys all know the danger they're running. I mean, what happened to him, he's lucky. They'll shoot you. He knows that. He knows that when he goes over there reporting. He knows they'll snipe you and say, oh, no, there was a terrorist right behind him.
Exactly. Yeah. Bounced off the floor.
Off the floor.
They meant to hit the floor.
Yeah, you go over there as a reporter, you're in more danger than just about any other country, because when if something like this happens with countries that the United States is not completely giving a carte blanche to, that we have a hostile relationship with, you're going to have an issue with the United States if you whack a reporter. Israel's just completely unrestrained because they know there's no consequences at all. The media won't cover it, very, very minimally. You got to literally rape someone on camera before the media takes an interest.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. All right, we'll move on. Jake had a good idea, Russ. He asked me to clear some videos from our backstage queue. Why don't you clear your video? Take that Trump video out of the queue. That'll help with your Wi-Fi because you look much better since I cleared some of our videos. There we go. All right. All right, beautiful. Well, we got a great crowd in here tonight. 1,800 strong in the YouTube chat. 11 strong on the Rumble chat. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button. Share this stream, tweet this out, please, and thank you. JM, thanks for the $2 and the thumbs up over on YouTube. Appreciate that. Anthony Ringette. Guys, check out the Adam Friedland show for Drea DiMatteo and Rob Schneider. Amazing episode. I'm sure that is a good one. I saw Rob Schneider. I saw the thumbnail that Rob Schneider was on that show recently. I'm a fan of the Adam Friedland show. Was a big fan of Come Town when it was on. Those guys are hilarious. So, yeah, I will bookmark that one for sure. Anthony Ringette, thanks for the $5. Nice to meet Russell Friday. Great tour. Sorry I missed the rest of the weekend. What's the film Halloween night? So it's going to be They Live. That's by popular demand.
By popular demand. We threw it out to the audience, and overwhelming votes were for They Live. I was very impressed that Eating Raoul did as well as it did. I thought nobody would have seen that movie, but I guess it has lived on as a cult classic.
That's right. Q-Star Sonic, thanks for the $19.99. Appreciate that. Rush should throw a tantrum and threaten to quit the show due to technical difficulties like Tim Pool. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Fucking thing sucks.
Fucking thing sucks. Scariest thing Trump said to Joe Rogan was Mike Pompeo is a good person. Sparky, thank you. We'll probably do that on Jimmy's show tomorrow. We have a couple of Rogan clips today, but we have to save a couple for tomorrow, too. It's always a tricky thing when we're doing Jimmy's show. We don't want to do the same material twice since we're basically doing our show 4 days a week. So we kind of got to split the stories between ours and his. But we will probably do that clip tomorrow. We do have some Rogan stuff this evening, obviously.
We're doing Jimmy's show. Trans is back on the menu, boys.
Yeah, right, exactly. Gareth Richmond, it's the last days of Rome here in the West, and I'm just here for the wine and orgies. Hail Bacchus. Thank you, Gareth. Appreciate that very much. All right. We got some Rumble rants. Jake is in the house tonight. Round of applause for Jake Field and Rumble rants for us. Round of applause in the chat. Let's see. Are you poster? People are making change in our own communities. For instance, the Steinware hat I'm currently and proudly wearing is union made. We can too. Thank you very much. Are you poster? Appreciate that. Freddie Freeman hit the first walk-off grand slam in World Series history with 2 outs in the 10th to give the Los Angeles Dodgers a 6-3 Game 1 victory over the New York Yankees. Thank you for that non-biased reporting, Eric Crusoe from Los Angeles. Appreciate that. Yeah, I wish Virtuoso would call in to the Q&A so we could talk a little World Series, but that was just what a ridiculous game. What a ridiculous, overmanaged game. That was a game the Yankees had to have. They could have stolen Game 1 on the road and played Game 2 with the wind at their back and not a care in the world. They end up losing Game 2. If they won Game 1, it wouldn't have been a big deal, but here they are. Horrible. Odds Kamala goes on, and I told you they were outmatched. I told you they were likely to lose. Odds Kamala goes on Rogan. Well, 0. She already said she's not now. That's
she's not doing that.
Yeah, we knew she wasn't going to do it. We just did that for clickbait.
That was never a
That was
serious
clickbait.
thing.
We did that for the clicks. Yeah. We did it for the views. It's all about the clicks and the views.
For the rubes. For the suckers.
For the suckers. We did that segment. What do you think we thought? Kamala was going to go on Joe Rogan? Tuh. Just kidding. Kind of. Abiding 71 Thursday recap theory. Okay, I don't know what this is. I saw this come in earlier. Keaton theory of Duke's endorsement of 4D chess move. 0% chance. What did we get into on Thursday? I forget. Somebody, Dems, give that cracker cheddar for his Stein endorsement. Oh, you're talking about. What are you talking about? Theory of Duke. Oh, David Duke. Oh, theory of David Duke's endorsement 4D chess move. 0% chance. Somebody giving him money for his endorsement.
You think so?
I mean, you think
maybe
right? I mean,
it's possible.
It's a theory.
It's possible. I wouldn't put it past him.
I wouldn't give it 100% chance, but that's a theory. That's something. I'll give you that. I forgot what we did. That's how long a weekend it's been. I forgot even what that was about. I forgot we even did that on Thursday.
That was like 50 years ago for us.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly.
There's been just one thing after another, man. This weekend was really a gauntlet.
Oh, yeah. And this week is not any lighter. Not any lighter.
No, it's heavier, if anything. Yep. We're just not doing anything live.
Exactly. All righty, folks. We are going to move right along here. Reminder, we are going to Rumble tonight for our Q&A after the show, so make sure you are ready to switch over at the end of the program if you want to join us for the post-show after party. All right, folks, this is somewhat old news, but this is the kind of news that ages like wine. This is one of those stories where even if it's a few days old, it's worth doing because this is the kind of story that you could really eat out on for quite some time. So the publisher at the Washington Post, William Lewis, printed this on the site on October 25th, 11:58 a.m. Eastern Time on political endorsement. A note from the publisher. The Washington Post will not be making an endorsement of a presidential candidate in this election, nor in any future presidential election. We are returning to our roots of not endorsing presidential candidates. Yeah, we are returning to our roots of the owner of our newspaper being invested in cloud computing software and doesn't want to lose out on any more government contracts than he may have already jeopardized. That's the roots of the Washington Post. Yep. See, our owner has bigger fish to fry, and in case Donald Trump becomes president, he doesn't want to lose those government gigs. Of course, he didn't come out and say that explicitly.
The motherfucker literally looks like Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Nobody noticed that he is a real-life supervillain?
Yeah. Yeah. As our editorial board wrote in 1960, then they go on this. I'll read this first paragraph. He writes more about this, but for timing's sake, we'll only read the first part. The Washington Post has not endorsed either candidate, this was 1960, in the presidential campaign. That is in our tradition and accords with our action in 5 of the last 6 elections. The unusual circumstances of the 1952 election led us to make an exception when we endorsed General Eisenhower prior to the nominating conventions and reiterated our endorsement during the campaign. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, he goes on for more paragraphs than that, tries to make it look like this is returning to roots, blah, blah, blah. We recognize that this will be read in a range of ways, including as a tacit endorsement of one candidate or as a condemnation of another, or as an abdication of responsibility. That is inevitable. We don't see it that way. We see it as consistent with the values the Post has always stood for and what we hope for in a leader. Character and courage in service to the American ethic, veneration for the rule of law, and respect for human freedom in all its aspects. We also see it as a statement in support of our readers' ability to make up their own minds on this, the most consequential of American decisions, whom to vote for as the next president. Our job at the Washington Post is to provide, through the newsroom, nonpartisan news for all Americans and thought-provoking reported views from our opinion team to help our readers make up their own minds. Most of all, our job as the newspaper of the capital city of the most important country in the world is to be independent, and that is what we are and will be. So, folks, how do you think the Libs took this? How do you think the Libs took this?
Very well, very well.
Very well, very well, I'm sure. Taking bets. You think they took it very well?
That was like some West Wing shit right there.
Yeah, exactly. Very quickly. All right, folks, here's how the Libs took it. Brooklyn dad defiant, breaking, sounding the alarm. The Paul Revere of shit liberty, Brooklyn dad defiant, Jeff Bezos is forcing the Washington Post not to endorse Kamala Harris for president, just in case Trump wins the election. Everybody cancel his bold face, not mine, your Washington Post subscriptions now. Fuck you, Jeff Bezos. So they followed. The nice thing about putting together these segments is you know exactly which accounts to search for to get their take, right?
Yeah.
Like it's now you don't have to do that much research.
Do we have a Takai take?
And no, I spared him. I spared Takai because you have personal affection for him, so that's why.
He was nice to me as a young boy.
He was nice to you as a boy, right? Yeah. So I try and be merciful.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. After 5 years, says Stephen King, I have canceled my subscription to the Washington Post. Mark Hamill. Must have a special place in your heart as well, but fuck him. I can only give you one.
Oh, fuck that guy.
Well, you haven't met Mark Hamill. He wasn't nice to you personally as a boy.
He wasn't nice to me personally as a child, though.
Yeah.
No, he was not.
just canceled the newspaper that told us democracy dies in darkness. Keith Olbermann, nice try, Jeff Bezos. Trump will still deport Lauren and then put you in the camps with the rest of us. Coward. Not an unhinged take at all. Rob Reiner, the Washington Post editorial board is a disgrace. For the newspaper that exposed the Pentagon Papers and the Watergate scandal to not take a position and endorse a candidate in the most consequential presidential election in 165 years is reprehensible. David Korn from Mother Jones. Democracy dies in the daylight and when corporate media owners don't give a damn about the threats to democracy. That's right. They are not taking this well. Joan Walsh, I just canceled my subscription to the Washington Post. You should too. And then I love this.
As
in the
Joan
replies.
Walsh goes, so goes the country.
Exactly.
So
I love this
saying.
though. Dino, a more effective process would be for everyone to stop shopping on Amazon. And Walsh replies, much harder, but considering. I like that.
Look, a word of sense. No, the most shocking, I mean, not really shocking, but stomach churning aspect of this is the way that all of a sudden they decided to wake up to the fact that the Washington Post is not the Washington Post that broke Watergate or the Pentagon Papers. It is fucking owned by Lex Luthor, which you were fine with. You were fine with until they did something that didn't fit your little narrative.
Right. Until something came before catering to your sensibilities.
Until that's it. You didn't mind. You did not think about the idea, hey, can I really trust a newspaper owned by the owner of Amazon? Can I really trust that newspaper to accurately report intelligence services stories given his contracts with the CIA? Military stories, ditto, given contracts with the CIA. Labor stories, given the horrible labor conditions, legendarily so, at Amazon. Oh, all of a sudden they don't endorse their totem of the week. And now, oh my God, the Washington Post is not an objective newspaper. You didn't give a shit about that last week.
It's crazy when a story like this catches fire. Like, I'm not on Facebook anymore, really. I mean, I post very, very rarely. Family pictures. Sometimes I'll post something political on there every once in a blue moon. But, you know, like you have your Zionist listening posts. I have my Lib listening posts. So I have, you know, certain people who I check on. And the thing that's so funny about the Libs, look, on the left, like the actual left, there are certain like online habits that we should probably break ourselves of, like trying to come out with the hottest take first and one up each other. Like that's a certain gamesmanship in our space that I think we should work on as a community of sorts, right? But they're just the opposite. Like they don't try to one up each other. They just all say the same exact thing. The exact same thing. So like when I looked on Facebook, one of my Lib relatives obviously just canceled my Washington Post, but she took it so far as to like for 2 days straight, she's just sharing every other newspaper endorsement of Kamala Harris that she can find. Like every other major city's newspaper that did endorse. She's like, here, Houston Chronicle endorsed Kamala Harris or whatever. I don't know that for a fact. That's the one. Just using it as an example. Here, this paper endorsed Kamala. This paper endorsed Kamala. It's like in Seinfeld when Jerry finds out that Elaine had faked orgasms and he starts calling all his other ex-girlfriends. Mary Lawrence had them. They had them. She had them. She had them. It's like that. This newspaper back Kamala, this is like, it is just so pitiful. It's so pathetic. I mean, it's just, it would be sad if it wasn't so funny.
I sent you a couple of screenshots from some of my Lib listening posts. What one jackoff actually declared, I have written a letter to the editor. I am outraged.
Right.
These people are such fucking clowns. They have the political depth of a dinner plate. Their idea of what is worth speaking out about really simply boils down to any challenge to the liberal class narrative. And it's not even the narrative of the elites that they think give a shit about them, and they don't. It's the narrative that they give to the plebs. They don't even realize they're plebs. They think they're in the game. They
Right.
think they're part of the ruling class. That's part of what's so pathetic about it. They laugh at you. They're laughing at you. And these people, the liberals, they'll point at the Trump people and they'll say, Elon and Trump are laughing at you. And that may very well be true, but point that finger back at yourself.
Right.
Because the same can be said of these people that you admire. You think Rachel Maddow gives a fuck about you? You think Rachel Maddow respects people like you? She thinks you're ridiculous. She thinks you're ridiculous. She would never spend 5 seconds with the kinds of people who watch her show.
Exactly. But the New York Times actually had a report as to how the Washington Post arrived at their decision not to endorse any candidate. Inside the Washington Post decision to stop presidential endorsement. So this was the Times had an article about this. A tropical storm was headed toward Florida's Gulf Coast in late September when senior news and opinion leaders of the Washington Post flew into Miami for a periodic meeting with Jeff Bezos, the newspaper's billionaire owner. During their visit, which included a working lunch at Mr. Bezos' sprawling home on an exclusive island in Biscayne Bay and dinner at a nearby restaurant, David Shipley, the Post's opinion editor, and Will Lewis, the Post's chief executive and publisher, he's the one who wrote the piece that we just read, discussed plans for the future of the newspaper's opinion section. The election, less than 45 days away, loomed large. By the end of the meeting, according to 4 people familiar with it who spoke on condition of anonymity to relay private conversations, it appeared to Mr. Shipley and Mr. Lewis that Mr. Bezos had reservations about the Post endorsing either candidate in the presidential race, but they also thought he was open to persuasion. Mr. Bezos' ultimate decision to end the Post's decades-long practice of endorsing presidential candidates exploded into public view on Friday, drawing criticism from reporters, editors, and readers, along with an unusual rebuke from the legendary Post journalists Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein. Now, oddly enough, they did not hyperlink to this in the article. I had to find this myself, but this is retweeted by Bob Woodward, as you could see. So this is the real scoop from Brian Stelter. New statement from Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein. We respect the traditional independence of the editorial page, but this decision, 11 days out from the 2024 presidential election, ignores the Washington Post's own overwhelming reportorial evidence on the threat Donald Trump poses to democracy. Under Jeff Bezos' ownership, the Washington Post news operation has used its abundant resources to rigorously investigate the danger and damage a second Trump presidency could cause to the future of American democracy, and that makes this decision even more surprising and disappointing, especially this late in the electoral process. The article continues, it came after additional discussion between Mr. Bezos and the 2 Post leaders, Mr. Shipley and Mr. Lewis, who privately made a case not to abandon the tradition so close to an election. The editorial board had already drafted an endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris, though Mr. Bezos did not read it before his decision, Mr. Lewis said in a statement on Saturday. The decision by Mr. Bezos had been in the making for weeks. It is not clear what motivated his final determination or its timing. Yeah, the timing of this really suggests that he's afraid that Trump is going to win and he doesn't want to be out of favor.
He doesn't want to
because
get
of all of his other business interests. Like if you were going to make this decision, you would make this at the very beginning of the cycle. Hey, just so everybody knows, we're not endorsing anymore. This way there'd be no anticipation a week before the vote. Where are they going to go? You would clear this up earlier if this weren't motivated by the business concerns of the owner, business concerns not pertaining to the publication, but his other business concerns. This is what happens when oligarchs own newspapers. It can bite you in the ass in more ways than one. Now, we've been saying that for a long time. The libs never cared until now.
Well, and especially with Trump has Elon so far up his ass, he's tickling his tonsils. He's got to worry that whatever contracts he could take from him and give to Elon, he will.
Exactly. Mr. Bezos has clashed repeatedly with Mrs. Harris's electoral opponent, former President Donald Trump, who for years has been openly hostile to him on social media. In 2019, Amazon sued the Trump administration, blaming Mr. Trump's animosity toward Mr. Bezos for its loss of a $10 billion cloud computing contract. There you go. There you go. Chris Pavlovsky, CEO of Rumble, was right on this. Let's be honest on how the world works. Jeff Bezos is scared shitless that Amazon Web Service loses favor with the U.S. government, and Oracle and others win favor. Absolutely. This is why he made sure the Washington Post stayed away from endorsing Kamala. Cloud is the profit center of big tech.
Yep,
that's right.
that's
the profit center of Amazon is not the shit they ship to your door. It's about the cloud computing. That is the profit. That's the moneymaker right there. That's the big money. And Bezos feels like he's probably already in danger of losing it. Doesn't want to push his luck. If anything, this sends a message to Donald Trump here. I held off. Now, what good that does him, yet to be determined. But that's no doubt where he's coming from. It's the most obvious thing in the world. And the sweet justice of this, as Russell said, was that a lot of people have been screaming for a long time how unhealthy for a democracy it is to have a billionaire oligarch like Jeff Bezos own a major paper of record. And again, they never cared until now, until it bit them in the ass.
The Libs did not give a shit about it. I remember when he bought it, you had all these puff pieces because it's a very neoliberal understanding of the world that would make Jeff Bezos owning the Washington Post make sense. The old models of newspapers selling classified ads don't work anymore. So we need a white knight from the new media, from the new technology to come in, and God bless him for rescuing the Washington Post. That was the overall tone. And that is how Libs have treated it ever since. Like he's the white knight who came in and saved. Only somebody making that kind of money could afford to come in and save this storied newspaper. And they really never bothered to ask what it implied about the editorial standards. And they never do. They were perfectly happy with oligarchs owning Twitter. And now all of a sudden it's a problem when it's an oligarch they don't like.
Exactly. 100%. Looks like the mods got that spammer over on Rumble, but if you haven't, please do. Looks like you got him. Thank you. The article continues. The businesses Mr. Bezos founded, including Amazon and Blue Origin, his aerospace company, still compete regularly for lucrative government contracts. Blue Origin executives met with Mr. Trump on Friday, and the company has a $3.4 billion contract with the National Aeronautics and Space Administration to build a lunar lander. Wow, these dollars keep adding up, don't they? They keep adding up.
And that he really has to worry about because that's
Mr.
you're
SpaceX
really getting
over
into Elon's territory.
Right. Yeah, exactly. In the weeks after Mr. Bezos met with Mr. Shipley and Mr. Lewis, members of the Washington Post editorial board who write editorials for the newspaper, including endorsements, assumed that the Post would be giving their stamp of approval to Mrs. Harris. Two of them had drafted the endorsement, which was awaiting a final sign-off. It never came. The board members were aghast. They grilled him. Why wouldn't the paper endorse? There was little support for the idea among the editorial board, which had not been consulted on the decision, one of the people said. The decision, which was reported by NPR before Mr. Lewis sent his email, generated near instantaneous blowback. Within minutes, Martin Barron, the former Post editor featured in the movie Spotlight, posted on X that it amounted to cowardice with democracy as its casualty. Wow, I bet the Libs love that one. Robert Kagan, an editor-at-large who has written for the Post for more than 2 decades, dashed off a quick resignation email to Mr. Shipley at 12:56 p.m. In an interview, Mr. Kagan said that in his view, the decision to not endorse a candidate was clearly a sign of preemptive favor currying with Mr. Trump, the Republican nominee for president.
And frankly, at the end of the day, what do they think that endorsement would do? Who the fuck who reads the Washington Post was not already voting for Kamala?
That's the other thing. Like, I think, like, on the facts, they're probably right. I mean, they're almost certainly right that Bezos didn't want to sign off on the endorsement because he figures, oh, shit, Trump's likely to win, and look at all of these contracts that are on the line if Trump decides to be vindictive about the fact that I endorse Kamala Harris. I think they're probably right about that. But as you just said, what weight do they think this carries? In 2016, I mean, almost every single major paper went against Trump. They
all endorsed
Hillary.
Hillary.
All endorsed Hillary. So, like, what exactly did you think this was going to do? No, it is a religious thing. He committed blasphemy. It's heresy not to endorse Kamala Harris, right? I mean, it like whatever the political implications are is kind of secondary. He did not express the moral virtue that we pay for when we give him $5 a month or whatever. And so their virtue signal now is to screenshot the cancellation email and post it out. As we saw a couple earlier on, I've seen some on Facebook, some of my lib friends, like they're all very, very proud to be canceling their Washington Post.
They want you to know all about it.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, they think this is an own somehow. Guys, according to you, the reason Jeff Bezos did this is because the Washington Post is not as valuable an asset to him as Blue Origin or as his AWS contract. So, like,
nowhere near.
He knows he's losing a little bit on the newspaper to protect his other interests, right? I mean, you don't get to be that rich without making those kinds of calculations on a daily basis.
He doesn't need the newspaper.
He doesn't need your $5 a month. He doesn't need Stephen King's $5 a month. That's not going to hurt him. He knew he would lose it, in fact. He did it anyway because that's business. And like I said, a lot of people have been sounding the alarm about this for a long time. You are late to the party once again.
Yeah, why the fuck do you think Jeff Bezos wanted to own a newspaper? Because he loves the news? He loves journalism? To massage the brains of you fucking morons, which he has been doing for over a decade quite successfully, and now you found out who you're actually dealing with. In the end, yeah, he knows he's not going to lose most of you anyway. He's not going to lose most of you anyway because you're too used to checking in to the Washington Post for your cues on what you're supposed to think to present yourself as a good liberal who's has the illusion of being part of the ruling class that wouldn't fucking spit on you. You'll go back. Most of you will. Most of you will. Look at all these people. Oh, they were going to leave X. They're going to leave X. They're all on X complaining about X.
Right. Yep. I think you're right. I think most of them will come crawling back in the end. In your dreams, Pedro. Thanks for the $9.99 over on YouTube. Hey, Russell, sorry for making you guys wait at the light last night. Got during the tour. Nature was calling my boyfriend. Too shy to come up to you during brunch today. Awesome work. Thank you guys for your work. One of your tour guests last night, I guess.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a great crowd last night. And the night before. Both nights. It was awesome.
Yeah, it looked great. Those who are patron members, you got to see it. We are going to play a teaser clip of that on the show this evening in not too long. So some of you guys will get a taste, and if you want to watch the whole thing, it is available up on Rumble now. Coco Flo, thanks for the $4.99. Hey, will DD election night coverage be Mary Jane Girls or Lionel Richie's all night long? Lionel Richie, of course.
Hey, speaking of music.
In the year 2525.
Wow, what a crowd tonight. 2,600 strong in the YouTube chat. That's beautiful. Thank you guys all so much for being here. Let's hit that like button and subscribe.
1,400 in Rumble.
That's awesome. Got a nice crowd in here tonight. I wish Rumble sent us some ad reads tonight, but they didn't. We don't have any. It's dry. It's bone dry over there. Looks like Love and Potato Salad's going to have a nice ad read for you. Yeah. Got that coming up in a few minutes. Salamander Fry, thanks for the $10. Hey, you guys are all right. You're all right too, Salamander Fry. Thanks very much. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Decades of domestication. Oops, sorry. What did I do here? Decades of domestication left Manosphere guys suspended in the He-Man Woman Haters Club phase, which normally takes place before puberty. I saw the same thing happen to Germans in the 80s and 90s. Thank you, Sparky. I'll give you a heart for that one. That's an astute cultural observation from Sparky. We got a heart from Michael Castillo for $100. Let's get a cowbell from Michael Castillo, please. And thank you. Beautiful. I love Due Dissidents. Love you too, Michael. Thank you very much. That's a very generous donation. Really appreciate that. Adil Saeed, thanks for the $5. Have you guys done any research on how prices for grocery items get fixed, the detailed mechanics of it? That specifically, no. Although I know that the food manufacturers have record profits, much more so than the grocery stores themselves. So that is perhaps something we will look into a bit more closely. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Enjoyed the music and chorus between the many great speakers, including you both at the recent Shindig. Thank you. Music was very important in the 20th century. Hope that's a sign it's making a comeback. Yeah, no, the music was wonderful. The speakers were great. It was a great crowd. It's funny. Somebody said in the Twitter comments, tough crowd for Keaton. It was a little bit of a tough crowd, but it sounded tougher online than it did in real life. Because when you watch the replay, you couldn't hear the audience reacting at all to anything we were saying. We actually did get more laughs than it looks like on the video. But the last one we did for Jose was billed as like a raucous comedy show. Jimmy was doing a comedy set there. It was in this down and dirty, new kind of underground venue in the Bronx. This was billed as like a formal concert. So I told Jose when we got there, that's why I opened. I said, this venue is far too nice for what I'm about to say. Like, I kind of feel weird. I kind of feel weird telling jokes in this setting.
Okay, so when you don't have stage monitors, they didn't have stage monitors, it's really hard to hear what the person's saying. But I caught the fuck, marry, kill joke. That one killed me. You can hear me actually on the video. You can
on
hear
the recording.
Me laugh. You can hear me laugh behind you.
Yes. I said between dating Willie Brown, marrying Doug Emhoff, and campaigning on genocide, Kamala's career is one big long game of fuck, marry, kill. Yeah. They like that.
That is a nicely constructed joke.
They liked it. That was pretty good.
That is a good joke.
We'll have our speeches clipped for the channel soon. It was just been a very busy day, but it'll probably be up tomorrow or Tuesday. But yeah.
Somebody said we needed more Mongolian throat singing.
Yeah.
Don't let. We were backstage. We were like, we should just go up to the mic.
Yeah, because they had us build together. They didn't give us each our slot. They're like, all right, between the two of you guys, you got 10 minutes.
You're the same person, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Come out like Siamese twins, just dressed under one like triple XL shirt. Oh, does that come out as a two-headed man? Yeah. That would have been funny. That would have thrown a bit of curveball.
Come out in a horse outfit.
Yeah,
one yeah, right. The back, one's the front.
Jess Love. Hey, Jess Love. Glad to have met Keaton outside of the Vegas Air Rally yesterday. Yes, it was great to meet you, too. Sorry to have missed Russell. Great speeches, guys. Kept up the great work. Yeah, Jess and I commiserated over the Yankee loss out on 14th Street yesterday.
Yeah, you know where I was? Like a fucking idiot. I decide, oh, no, I could wear brand new, not broken in leather shoes on a mile and a half walking tour. Yeah, no, like I popped a blister before I even got through the program. So it was like a shoe emergency. I had to go find shoes on 14th Street before the tour.
Yeah. Yep. Russ had to take a shoe break. Build a better world with bricks, says Sparky. Thank you very much. Landrew for $100. Let's get a sound drop for Landrew. Thank you, Landrew. In celebration of election night, Jill Stein's 5% victory, my ex-wife suggested I make pizza just for me. She included an old family recipe for dough. Does anyone know where to get arsenic? Free Palestine. Thank you, Landrew.
I am Landrew. Landrew is dead.
I wonder how many of the tour people went to Bleecker Street Pizza.
Ah, that's interesting. Yeah.
It ended 2 blocks away, and I plugged it both tours.
Yeah, because you ended on Bedford. That's right there.
Yeah, it's right there.
Sparky, thanks for the $5. Keep in mind, Israel has killed many more Americans than Iran. Remember the USS Liberty. Thank you very much. Virtuoso, thanks for the $5. I will be calling in. Thank you, but bear with me speaking with a hoarse voice from yelling at the TV because the Yanks can't score more than 3 stinking runs. Thanks, Virtuoso. I look forward to hearing from you. Appreciate that.
You haven't called in a while.
All right. Okay, we will get to some Rumble rants in just a moment, but let's move on here. So the Washington Post was not the only newspaper not to endorse Kamala Harris. The Los Angeles Times declined to endorse Kamala as well, which also angered the Libs quite a bit. But reporting has come out here that shows their endorsement was actually far more based than the Washington Post. For the Washington Post, it was Jeff Bezos' business interest, which almost certainly motivated the decision. In this case, it was the owner of the magazine trying to do right by his daughter. So good for him, and even better by his daughter. Daughter of LA Times owner says endorsement decision stemmed from Harris' stance on Gaza war. That's right. As the nation counted down this fall to a bitterly polarized election, the editorial board of the Los Angeles Times drew up a detailed outline for an endorsement that seemed obvious for an institution that had leaned liberal for generations. Vice President Kamala Harris should be the next president of the United States. A California native and resident of Los Angeles, Ms. Harris was not only a unifying and inspiring generational figure, looks like the Times is doing their endorsement in this article, in the board members' view, but also an important bulwark between Donald J. Trump and democratic institutions. They were unaware, however, that a different...
Is that what she is now?
Yeah. They were unaware, however, that a different and more powerful group had been meeting. The family of Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, the paper's owner, with far different plans for the newspaper's voice. This week, the biotech billionaire who had bought the paper in 2018 for $500 million acted on those plans with scant internal or public explanation, abruptly vetoing the planned endorsement, informing the board through an intermediary that the Los Angeles Times would make no recommendation in the presidential race. For days, readers in overwhelmingly liberal Southern California speculated angrily about a decision that was widely regarded as a favor to Mr. Trump. Again, it's the Los Angeles Times. This is even worse than the Washington Post. You're talking about even more of a lib-centric. It's the Los Angeles Times. And a vote of no confidence in Miss Harris. I mean, the Washington Post is D.C., but that's a national paper of record. The Los Angeles Times, I mean, come on.
It's a local.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody really reads it outside L.A.
No, like the movie reviews were famous. They had that guy, Kenneth Turan. He was like a movie critic. But I don't even know if he writes anymore. I don't even know if he's alive anymore. But that was the only reason anybody paid any attention to the LA Times ever. Not for this kind of stuff. Thousands of readers canceled subscriptions. Again, 3 members of the editorial board resigned. Again, nearly 200 staff members signed an open letter to management demanding an explanation, complaining that the decision this close to the election had undermined the news organization's trust with readers. The Times' News Guild, the newsroom's union, lodged a protest. In social media posts and subsequent interviews with his own news organization, Dr. Soon-Shiong framed the choice as an attempt at neutrality. But in a statement on Saturday that was swiftly challenged by the paper, his daughter, Nika Soon-Shiong, 31, a progressive political activist who has frequently been accused of trying to meddle in the paper's news coverage, said the decision was motivated by Ms. Harris's continued support for Israel in its war in Gaza. Quote, our family made the joint decision not to endorse a presidential candidate. This was the first and only time I have been involved in the process, Ms. Soon-Shiong, who has no formal role at the paper, said in a statement to the New York Times. So she told the Times, yeah, I had something to do with this. As a citizen of a country openly financing genocide and as a family that experienced South African apartheid, the endorsement was an opportunity to repudiate justifications for the widespread targeting of journalists and ongoing war on children. Damn, the kids are all right, are they not? Good for her. In a statement, Dr. Soon-Shiong said the daughter did not speak for the paper. Nika speaks in her own personal capacity regarding her opinion, as every community member has the right to do, the owner said. According to a spokeswoman, she does not have any role at the LA Times, nor does she participate in any decision or discussion with the editorial board, as has been made clear many times. Okay, so here we got some tweets from Nika Soon Xiang. This is not a vote for Donald Trump. This is a refusal to endorse a candidate that is overseeing a war on children, she says in response to the non-endorsement. I'm proud of the LA Times decision, just as I am certain there is no such thing as children of darkness. There is no such thing as human animals. You know, she's got the Palestinian flag in her bio there. She's also retweeted recently here the Committee to Protect Journalists. The Committee to Protect Journalists is aware of accusations made by the IDF against several journalists in Gaza, accusing them of being members of militant groups. Israel has repeatedly made similar unproven claims without producing credible evidence. She gave that a retweet. She also recently tweeted this. As Mandela said, the temptation is to speak in muffled tones about the rights of the people of Palestine. Having achieved our own freedom, we can fall into the trap of washing our hands of difficulties that others face, yet we would be less than human if we did so. So, yeah, she is pretty unmistakably pro-Palestine, and she admits that she had an influence in this non-endorsement. She also retweeted this piece about the recent Ta-Nehisi Coates book. The topic is apartheid. Apartheid is the topic. As Coates said, I don't have hope for a Harris presidency disrupting that colonial system. So, yeah, she whipped her dad into shape. And good family man that he is, he wasn't going to disappoint his daughter. That's every parent's worst nightmare is that they disappoint their kids. She put the pressure on, and they nixed the endorsement, which was planned. And so good for her. Good for her. Runner-up for Dissident of the Year, perhaps. In the conversation.
After Rachel Zegler.
Yeah, right after Rachel Zegler, yes. In the conversation. Not at the top, but that is an honorable mention, perhaps, for spiking the Kamala endorsement.
Oh, I'm sorry, Libs. Do you feel that our national media should not be run like Game of Thrones among a bunch of noble houses competing for influence over the public? Oh, does that bother you now all of a sudden that these newspapers, I mean, this one sounds like it was for more based reasons than what Jeff Bezos did. But hey, maybe the press should not be the plaything of billionaires, and billionaires should not be able to dictate the public conversation in that way.
Right.
In fact, it would be nice if they just stay neutral. Like, if anything, okay, you don't like it in this election, but yeah, I mean, they should, especially given who owns these newspapers. What is their endorsement worth? Their endorsements are a fucking farce. Look at that New York Times, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar joint. What is that worth? It was absurd. It was ridiculous. It was one of those moments that gives you horrifying insight into the level of intelligence that people who read that have. You just try to imagine the mind of somebody who would read that and go, you know what? I like that. I like that. They broke with the tradition because they're both very good. I like that. Let me get another subscription. I'm going to send it to my nephew because he likes Bernie. And I'm going to send him this article. Fucking, it just blows your mind. Like, there are people who would read this and go, yeah, no, that's really good. All right, so wake up, man. Maybe none of these newspapers should be endorsing anybody. I mean, they shouldn't be owned by billionaires to begin with. But if they're going to be owned by billionaires, wouldn't it be better if they just don't endorse anybody?
Well, that speaks to another core hypocrisy of the liberals at this moment. Because I tweeted this out. I'll just read from this. You know, the liberals say out of one side of their mouth that Trump is a threat to a free and independent press. But out of the other side of their mouth, when their favorite credible independent news outlet like the Washington Post doesn't endorse their candidate, they have a fit.
They have a meltdown.
Right? They have a
total meltdown.
So do you value an independent press or not? Because you seem to attack Trump for attacking an independent press, but when the independent press exercises a level of independence, at least in the context of the presidential campaign, and says we're going to stay out of this and just try and give you the facts to whatever that's worth, right? Point is, it's an expression of independence in a certain context, and they have an utter meltdown. when that happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, they like the words. They like the words freedom of the press. They like the
Right.
words democracy. They like the word freedom of speech. They don't like the actual fact of
Practice of it. Yeah. Yeah.
When they see it in practice, they lose their minds.
Right.
They really do. Their
amazing.
idea of all of those things is, I'm going to tell you exactly what you expect to hear.
Right.
If anything is said that you do not expect, anything that's off script, anything that's not part of the plan, as the Joker says in Dark Knight, people will accept anything as long as it's part of the plan, even if it's horrible.
Right.
You know, Israel, genocide. All right. They're telling you it's part of the plan. That's okay. That's all right. They're telling you Vladimir Putin going into Ukraine isn't. So they all lose their minds. That's it. That's their idea of democracy. Freedom of speech. They don't even pay lip service to that at this point. They've kind of been talked into the idea that freedom of speech and working out are both right-wing attributes.
That's what got us into
You should
this
be
mess.
fat and quiet.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Fat and quiet. That's right. All righty, folks. Hey, Love and Potato Salad, you are getting quite the plug tonight because we got a big crowd in here, and Rumble decided not to give us any ads tonight. I don't know if that's a glitch or what's wrong with that, but I don't know. What, they don't want to sell any coffee tonight? That's weird. That's weird. That is pretty strange, is it not? But from the author who gave you the Renegade Nuns on Wheels MC comes the contemporary Shakespearean tragedy, Love and Potato Salad, Romance and Food Allergy in the Iowa City Park. The story of a kind, beautiful woman, the poor fool in love with her, and a food allergy so epic in scale, the officially prestigious UNESCO City of Literature will never be the same in this raunchy dissertation on the mix of horror and mediocrity that is life in modern-day North America and the absurdity of unrequited love. Love and Potato Salad by Jason Thomas Smith is available now in print and Kindle editions. Buy it before it destroys you. Go to dudissidents.com/lovepotato and support this dissident arts community. That's dudissidents.com/lovepotato for Love and Potato Salad by Jason Thomas Smith. And if you would like to partner with us, if you have a passion project, a small business, any kind of endeavor that you would like to publicize on the show, help us help you, help support the show, and help us support your project, go to dudissidents.com/sponsors, and we will get back to you. We have heard from a few people also with books who are waiting to hear back from us. We're trying, out of loyalty to people who are already advertising. You don't want to advertise 11 books at the same time because then you compete with the other people who are also sponsoring. So
that was the mistake they made with the Bible.
Yeah, right, exactly. So once, because not all these ad campaigns are going on indefinitely. Once we rotate out the ones that are going on, we'll bring more in. Okay, so we just want to do that in fairness to people who are advertising with us already. But yes, dudissidents.com/sponsors. You can help support the show, and everybody who has signed up has gotten more than their money back in terms of selling what they've got. So I'm glad it's worked out. Thank you in the audience for supporting people who support us. That's how we build this up, right? That's the name of the game. So thank you very much, everybody, for that.
Help us to help us.
Hey, help us, help you, help us by helping you. Help everybody. We help everybody. That's right. There we go. All right, folks. 2,600 strong on YouTube, 1,500 strong on Rumble. Big crowd in here tonight. That's wonderful. So, folks, we are now going to, Jake, I know I said we were going to do the scroll later, but we should do it after this segment. It just makes sense, obviously, for pretty obvious reasons, because we are about to give you guys a little preview of what you would have gotten if you were a cool kid and you signed up at Patreon, Substack, or Locals. That's right. Russell Dobular hosted his weird New York walking tour last night in Lower Manhattan, or not technically Lower Manhattan, in the Village.
Greenwich Village,
yeah. In the Village. And we are going to show you about a 6-minute excerpt from that tour where Russ talks about the infamous Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. Do you want to set this up and I'll load the video in?
Yeah, I created this tour because I have a fascination with the macabre, but I'm too honest to do ghost tours in New York because they're all just made up bullshit. But I am interested in the underlying stories of murder and mayhem that often made up those tours. So I created my own, and I decided, let me come out of retirement for a couple nights and do this. It was a great experience. We got to see a lot of our audience there. Sammy was down from Canada. And last night we had Garland Nixon on the tour. We had Jimmy. We had Nellie McKay was on the tour. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I hope a lot of the people tried that damn pizza. And I hope after they tried it, they did what I asked them to do. Go watch the next episode of Hardland Media and troll Kid about it.
And troll Kid. Yeah, there you go. Right. DM Kid.
I hope you all did that. Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So here's an excerpt from Russ's tour. Jimmy, Nelly, and Garland all have their Alfred Hitchcock cameos in here. So if you look closely, you'll see them. We're going to full screen, mute up. This is about 6 minutes. This is a sampling of Russ's Weird in New York tour and a great history lesson on one of the darkest but most important chapters in New York City history, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire.
All right. So we are in the belly of the beast. We're in the heart of NYU. NYU is kind of the monster that ate Greenwich Village. Now, it was originally founded with a dual mission, one of which it accomplished, one of which it certainly did not. You'll actually laugh when you hear what the second part was. So, Trinity Church was and still is, the parent of Columbia University. So they founded NYU in 1831 to be a secular alternative to Columbia. That they succeeded in. The second part is funny. The second part of their mission was to provide affordable education to the middle class. That's what they call mission creep. They have drifted quite. Last I heard, and I'm sure this figure is out of date, was $65,000 a year on the tuition alone. Is that still the 90? Yeah. So, my figures are out of date. But across the street here, this is part of NYU. That's what NYU's done. It's like the blob. Just kind of absorbed every building in the area. This is today called the Brown Building. Originally, it had the unfortunate name, the Ash Building. That is unfortunate because it was the site of the third greatest loss of life in a single day in New York City history after 9/11 and the sinking of the General Slocum at the turn of the century. This was the site of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire, where on March 25th, 1911, 146 Jewish and Italian immigrant women burned to death when a fire broke out in the sweatshop that they were working in. Now, there were a few reasons that this fire was so deadly. Most of them boil down to the fact that they had no workplace safety laws, no labor laws. So the owners used to just lock the doors to make sure the women did not take breaks. Heroes that they are, when they found out there was a fire, they just left. They didn't unlock the doors or anything. They just left the women to their fate. Now, a very brave elevator operator took the elevator up with the building in flames and unlocked the door. But it didn't help because they had no safety codes for how you could build that kind of a space. The doors opened in, not out. So when he unlocked it, they just crushed against the door in their panic and couldn't get it open. Also, to us, that's not even a building worth noticing. But to them back then, that's a skyscraper. The fire department had not caught up with buildings like this yet. Their ladders only went 6 stories. The factory was on the 7th, 8th, and 9th floor. Their nets were not made to catch people falling from that height. So even the women who tried to jump wound up tearing through the nets. So this is a picture of the bodies piling up.
Oh, Jesus.
Outside the building. And the police just watching the women often teetering on the ledge, given the terrible choice between jumping to their death or burning to death. A lot of them would catch on fire and then plummet to the ground. People who saw it from a distance thought they were throwing fabrics out the window to save the fabrics. They couldn't imagine that these were the women jumping out. Now, if you come here on March 25th, every year the fire department has a memorial where they bring 146 roses, each with the name of one of the women who died that day. And they raised their ladder to the ninth floor because they were not able to do that. If anything good came out of this, it kind of settled the debate on whether workers need unions until Reagan, for a while anyway. Then the debate came back. But nobody could question whether workers needed that protection after that. The owners were put on trial, surprisingly. Not surprisingly, they were found not guilty. Tragically, they weren't. That was the problem. There were no laws against what they did. No law then as now against being a horrible human being in and of itself. A lot of the safety codes we have today came out of this fire. They had a committee that investigated and made recommendations. If you look at the doors behind us, you'll see a bar across. That's called a panic bar. That was invented because of this fire to make sure that people not only doors would always open out in public spaces, but no one would have to fiddle with a knob. People are panicked. As soon as you hit the panic bar, the door opens. It's foolproof, panic-proof. And the young man who led the committee that made those recommendations had a bright future in politics. He was a scion of an old money New York political family. FDR headed that committee. Any questions?
What year is the fire?
1911.
Thank you.
All right, this way.
There's JD, Nellie Mackay at the front of the pack there.
Well, hopefully there's not a line.
Thanks to Big Mad Crab, by the way, for filming that for us. Great job on the video. Russ, you got on mute. You got on mute.
Yep,
there you
go. Yep, Crab was the cameraman. He did a great job. Great crowd. We had some awesome special guests. Garland said he didn't know a tour could be that interesting and horrible. so he had a good time. Jimmy had fun. We went out afterwards with Nellie, who was lovely, by the way. She is a lovely person.
Nellie Mackay.
Very warm, very nice. She came today to the brunch.
So I knew of Nellie Mackay's music before I believe I got sort of acquainted with her through Jimmy's show, because when I worked at Barnes & Noble from 2007 to 2010, I believe, I'm almost positive, that one of her albums was like one of the in-store plays during a time that I was there. So what would have been that album? I'm sure I'll recognize it if it's from this period. Yeah. Normal as Blueberry Pie, a tribute to Doris Day. That must have been it. It was like a cover album, 2009. That must have been it. That must have been it, because I definitely had heard.
She her music's great. She released an album, I don't know, maybe 9 months ago. I started listening to it. It's also very good. It's kind of rooted in the Appalachian music and culture. But she was really just a very warm, very open, lovely person. But hey, if you didn't get to see this one, you can see the full tour if you become a patron. If you're not a patron already, that's living up there. And this went so well, I will, in all likelihood, as long as I'm in town, bring back my Irish Mob of the Hell's Kitchen tour for St. Patrick's Day in March.
There you go. That'll be fun. So yeah, Jake, if you want to hit the scroll, please, because you can get access to that full tour by becoming a member at patreon.com/DoDissidents, DoDissidents.substack.com, or you could join our locals. That's right, DoDissidents.locals.com. We are pushing the locals since that is a free speech platform connected with Rumble. So it would be awesome if you could all join our locals for just $5 a month. You get all kinds of great perks, of course, including your name up in lights on the patron scroll here. You also get your name up in lights on the, you also get call-in access to our Q&As, which happen every Sunday nights. Tonight is Sunday, so that is, of course, a perk. If you join tonight, you can, of course, access our Q&A on Rumble after the conclusion of this program. We will be switching over in about an hour or so, probably. So we still got plenty of show left this evening. You also get supporter streams, access to movie club nights, and special events like this one. So that full stream is up on Rumble now. We will upload it directly to the platform, Substack, Locals, and Patreon, so you can watch it ad-free. I know Rumble is running ads very often on the replays of the live streams, which could be kind of annoying over the course of a 2-hour video. So we'll upload it as its own video file so you can watch it uninterrupted. But those are the perks you get. We really make it worth your while. All that for just $5 a month. So if you could sign up, it helps us tremendously. It helps us tremendously to censor-proof this operation and to keep us going. That's dudissidents.locals.com. Or if you're watching on Rumble right now, which 1,500 of you are, that bright red join button right underneath the video player will take you to our Locals page, where you could sign up for as little as $5 a month. Those T-shirts, by the way, are in the mail. That's right. If you want to see our elementary collection of T-shirts, we're still waiting on some final designs coming back from people customizing them for the new merch shop, dudissidents.com/merch. We have our very basic designs on hoodies, sweatshirts, and tees.
How's that going with the Iron Maiden and all that?
I'm still waiting on one final graphic from a couple different people, so we will be populating it with more stuff as the days come by. We will have it in full swing for the holidays, obviously, because you're going to need your Due Dissidents merch for
scumbag,
Christmas.
douchebag, tote bag.
Of course. Yeah, we will get that ready. We do tote bags on our shop, so we will have that all ready for the holidays. All right. Jack, thanks for the $2. On YouTube, douchebag dad compliant is still a thing. That's right. Thank you, Jack. Derek, thanks for the $5. RE, your video, RE, Muslim leader kicked out by Kamala. I visited Detroit Metro News. Opinion piece at top of homepage is deranged. Have you read it? I have not. I will look into that, though. Thank you for the tip on that. I always like to do a follow-up when we can. Let's see here. We got a super chat for $100 that got locked out of the queue when my YouTube studio conked out on me, but I did get it back. It's Tyson for $100. Let's have a cowbell for Tyson. Thank you very much, Tyson. Binary answer. If you had to vote for Trump or Kamala, who do each of you vote for? If you don't answer, refund the money. No, we're not refunding the money. John Moore, thanks for the $5. I'm kidding. Okay. I'm kidding.
Good
luck.
If I had to, honestly, I haven't really changed my opinion from the beginning. Yeah, man. I mean, Keaton puts it very well. It's Russian roulette with one chamber open. I still believe that. There's
Trump
no
is
doubt.
Russian roulette with one chamber open. Kamala is Russian roulette with every chamber loaded. Yeah, that was the exact analogy I was going to give you too.
Yeah, I agree with that analysis. Like with Trump, you got a chance. I consider it slim. There's no doubt that deep state avatar Kamala Harris is just going to be run by the military-industrial complex,
right?
And they're just going to walk us right into World War III. There's no question about it. That's clearly what they want.
Absolutely. So if you need it in a word, I would say Trump. But the problem with that is when you say a thing like that, then everybody takes it as, well, you're supporting Trump. No. I mean, that's a fantasy hypothetical world that you're giving us there for $100. So I will play along for $100. But, I talked about this with Pasta and Matt Weinglass last week. When you say you support a candidate, you own a number of shares of their presidency. You are, to a certain extent, on the hook for what they do. And what's likely to happen when Trump gets sworn in is he's likely to tell Benjamin Netanyahu to do whatever he has to do, not to worry about aid getting in. We will send him whatever he needs to do, whatever he wants to do very quickly, which probably means the eradication of Gaza very quickly.
Yep.
Do any of you guys touting Trump as the lesser evil? Do you want me to to constantly badger you about that? Because I will. Anybody who's full-throatedly supporting Donald Trump, all these people who want to do this dance about, oh no, he's actually good on this. He actually is anti-war. When he oversees the rapid extermination of the Palestinian people, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to ask if you stand by what you said. And I'm going to ask it every second until you apologize. And so that's why in real life, I can never support Donald Trump. And I don't, because this is real life.
Yeah. In a sane world, Dave Chappelle would be the president.
Right.
I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Bezos also owns Blue Origin, the rocket company, and he's jealous how Trump is cozying up to Elon. That's right. Thanks, John Moore.
Well, and he's worried. He's worried because who do you think is going to get those contracts?
Right. Of course.
Shit, man. They already had to hire Elon to rescue the astronauts.
Right. Yes, exactly. Sparky, Kagan's wife, is friend of the show, Victoria Newland. Oh, interesting. I did not know that. Thank you, Sparky. LA Times did the same thing, says Lee Levin. Thank you. Sparky, you forgot to mic the audience. Yeah, I have to tell that to Jose next time you got to mic the audience. It looks like I'm bombing up there. Looks like I'm dying up there. But no, they were actually more responsive. Look, I'm not going to lie and say I killed. It wasn't exactly my room in that respect. It was my room in the sense that they were my political
did not know how to react
comrades.
to some of that.
Yeah. But
I had a lady. I keep forgetting to tell you this. A woman came up to me at the VIP reception afterwards, after the concert, after the Jose event, and she comes over to me and she goes, "I saw your speech at Rage, and I was so impressed. It was so both poetic and polemic. So then I watched your show." And you guys are saying fucking this and fucking that. I said, what is this?
I was so impressed, and then I watch your show, and it's fuck this, fuck that. That's good.
Her name was Susan. If you're watching, Susan,
okay.
that was funny. That was funny. I was like, I'm really coming out of the kind of Charles Bukowski blue collar intellectual school,
That's good. I like that. I like that. I was
elegant on the page, crude off the cuff.
Yeah, right. That's funny. That is good. I like that. I like that. And I watch your show and it's fuck this, fuck that. Oh, that's good. Kuznetsky Bassane, kick cancel culture ass. Thank you, Kuznetsky Bassane. Appreciate that. Cherry World, thanks for the $5. Will Kamala and Liz be taking their Thelma and Louise act on the road to Dearborn? They did not stop in Dearborn. No, they were going to the suburbs. It's all about the suburbs for Kamala and Liz Cheney, not about Dearborn. Dearborn gets, of course, shafted. All right, what do we got over here? We got some Rumble rants over here. Luis de la Cruz, take him out and put in a coke fiend in Norman Take him out and put in a coke fiend in Norman Finkelstein voice. Thank you for that. Yes. Hey, they did go down Moses at the show on Saturday. That was Norm Finkelstein likes that show. He sang that song. And Diane Sayer was talking to us when we interviewed her about how Norm sang the lyrics to Go Down Moses when they did the protest, and how Norm lamented the lack of culture and music in today's protest movement. So I thought it was cool that they did that at the show.
Mm-hmm.
Back in my day, we sang Go Down Moses. Kids nowadays, they only know Go Down on Moses. From Go Down Moses to Go Down on Moses in 2 generations. What do you know?
I actually,
it's a disgrace, really.
I wrote most of the lyrics to Truckin'. Tripping with Jerry in Vermont.
Yeah, right, exactly. Was that a President Camacho rally? Brondo has electoral rights. Thank you.
Right. I mean, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Like, we are not serious people anymore.
Yeah, no.
As a nation. Like, a serious nation would not produce that kind of a movement, would not think that's the way to approach questions of power and leadership.
Right. Oh, of course. 30 milligrams, thanks to the $2. My favorite part of the Trump Rogan podcast was when Trump said he should become a whale psychiatrist. You know, it's funny. I listened to that whole podcast on the train ride down to the city on Saturday morning. And I don't remember that part. I must have just been spacing out thinking of something else. I was refining my speech on my phone while I was listening. So I must have been focused on my speech when that came on. But yeah, that is getting a lot of play. Maybe we'll look that up for tomorrow.
This guy is so dedicated to his family. In the middle of the program, he changed his train to get back earlier.
Well, yeah, man.
I was out getting shoes. He calls me. Yeah, I'm gonna leave at 5. All right, I'm gone. I'm out of here.
I mean, I stayed for all the speakers. I didn't catch all the music. I wanted to stay for Jose and Diane, obviously. So I stayed for them. I didn't catch all the music at the very end, though I left almost at the very end. Like
I told him if it were me, I'd be calling away. You know, I took the train down here already. I guess I'll be back next week, and that's why I'm not married.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's right. But yeah, no, I mean, I stayed for all the speakers and almost all the music. I had to cut out like 15 minutes early to get the train. The people of Infinite should check out J.D. Vance on Tim Dillon's podcast. Seemed reasonable. Not that I believe him. LOL. Thank you. Appreciate that. Furrow Squeen Fire Dancer says, can you believe this? You're on an hour early thanks to daylight savings time, but I haven't done any of my coursework, so I have to only half concentrate. Excited to listen when I'm not semi-conscious.
Is that today? Is it daylight savings time?
Well, I guess over there, overseas.
Oh,
maybe in Europe it's daylight savings time. Yeah, no, it's it's always first week in November here. It's the day before the marathon. That's how I always remembered it.
All right. So I'm legit this tired.
Yeah. Yes. That's understandable. Bonzo Beans, happy Stanislav Petrov Day, the man who saved the world on October 27th, 1962. Eric Rousseau, make America metal again. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. Appreciate that very much. Cool Blue, perhaps now would be a good time to mention my 2024 presidential prediction. Trump will win. Consolation prize, Kamala will carry her home state. Yeah, there you go. That seems pretty safe. Cool Blue, I'm going to email you back. We got to do a dry run. Not a dry run. We got to do a somewhat tech rehearsal sorts so that you could sit in with us on election night. So be on the lookout. I'll get that done early this week for sure. Thank you very much. All righty. We are going to move on right now. Okay. So Kamala Harris brought Michelle Obama with her to rally in Michigan. I believe this was yesterday. Could be the day before. Pretty sure this was yesterday. And Michelle Obama goes on a rant against men for letting their disillusionment and disaffection and class-based rage imperil the standing of the women in their lives. This is Michelle Obama, perhaps at her most condescending, which is a very, very big thing to say.
Yeah. All right, that's a very high bar.
Very high bar. Here we go.
That there are a lot of angry, disillusioned people out there, upset with the slow pace of change, and I get it. It is reasonable to be frustrated. We all know we have a lot more work to do in this country. But to anyone out there thinking about sitting out this election or voting for Donald Trump or a third-party candidate in protest because you're fed up, let me warn you, your rage does not exist in a vacuum. If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage.
Okay.
You're talking to me all wrong. It's the wrong tone.
Yes. Well, rage by definition, unless you're dealing with a psycho, like someone who belongs in like an actual like straitjacket in a padded room.
Yeah.
Rage does not exist in a vacuum. Like there's a reason why people are angry. The context for the rage is not this baseless, man rage at the social progress we've made, which is usually the implication that the Obamas make when they talk about the disaffection of working class people. Here she seems to validate their rage, but at the same time say, you better check your rage, because if you don't, you're going to be endangering the women in your life.
Like your husband did by not codifying Roe after promising it would be his first priority in office.
Well, this is the amazing thing
endangering
about
women
this.
that way. Is that
Yeah.
what she means?
This is the amazing thing about this, is that Barack Obama promised both to empower the working people after the 2008 financial crisis and to codify Roe versus Wade into law within the first, 90 or 100 days. He failed to do both those things. He did not empower the working people, and he did not codify Roe versus Wade. Because he didn't empower workers, they got disaffected and they turned to Trump. And then because he didn't codify Roe, Trump overturned Roe. And so now the working class is still angry because the working class has never been unfucked in the way that Barack Obama promised he would. And there's no Roe versus Wade because Barack Obama promised he would codify it, and it didn't. And so now what she's saying is, you have to vote for us, the same party that screwed workers, because we failed to also codify Roe versus Wade. Like, it's just such blatant emotional blackmail. It's like, yeah, we failed to do everything we were supposed to do, and now you guys are stuck holding the bag, but you have no choice but to double down and vote for us anyway, or else you're a bad person because our failure to codify Roe versus Wade, actually, that's on you, working class men. Because if you empower the Republicans again, they're going to make it even worse, even though we totally failed on both scores.
If only all of America were but one private chef.
Yeah, right, exactly.
The Obamas are really working overtime to outdo the Clintons as the biggest fucking pieces of shit the country has ever produced. They are just unbelievable in their hypocrisy, and it's amped up by their racial identity, because that is the purpose of the Obamas. What do you think? The elite class put them out ahead of Hillary because they feel they want to elevate black people? You think they give a shit about that? It's much better cover to have someone like Barack Obama representing this triumph over America's past while they rob the nation blind than just to have another old white guy. That makes it too obvious, right? You put in Barack Obama, you can make it about something entirely different. The role of the Obamas is to put this face of diversity on oligarchy, to make it look like we're making progress when the underlying reality of the economy is no progress for working people of all colors. And then what she's doing here, that is what the Obamas are for. That's what the Obamas were elevated to do, to turn everything into a racial, cultural issue, and to tell people if they are concerned about their economics, check your privilege.
Right.
Old white guy. Biden can't say that.
Right.
That's what they're there for. That's the reason they picked Obama over Hillary. They felt he could sell that better than she could.
Look at these idiots applauding.
Are you as men?
How stupid do you have to be to applaud that?
Into the eyes of the women and children you love and tell them that you supported this assault on our safety?
Can you look into the eyes of the women and children you love, who you betrayed at every single opportunity when you were the most powerful couple on earth? Like, the reason we are where we are is because of Barack Obama as much as anybody else. As much as anybody else, it was Obama's failure that made Trump and Trumpism viable. Trump is a non-starter if Barack Obama prosecutes bankers. Non-starter. Right. No way. No way Trump gets a foothold if Barack Obama sicked his Justice Department on the oligarchs who crashed the market as opposed to the homeowners who lied on their mortgages. No way. And there is no willingness ever to reconcile with that. What did I tell you? We covered the Obamas about a week and a half ago. Narcissists that they are, what does a narcissist do? They blame everyone closest to them. They blame their friends for their failures, not themselves. They don't blame their enemies. They blame their friends. They blame those closest to them. Here they are doing it one more time.
Yeah, one of the craziest Obama stories is how after he got elected, it's after the financial crisis, in the middle of the financial crisis, the bankers were scared shitless when they got summoned to the White House, they thought he's going to pull an FDR on them. They
Yep.
walk into the Oval Office. He says, "What do you guys need?"
Right. Yep. I know a guy. I interviewed a guy. I won't get into details because it was for another gig, and it was, it would not be proper for me to spill that kind of tea as to who they were. But I was just doing. This was back when I was doing audio video work, like it was a day job kind of thing. And there was this business owner who was starting a new business right at the time the financial crisis hit. And part of how he started this new business is he would sell a very exclusive, personalized, limited edition item. I won't even get into what it is because you might guess what it is. But, for like whatever, 10 grand a piece, you can have this fucking thing with your name etched in it as a founding member of whatever.
Okay.
And he got a bunch of orders.
So your friend was in the Illuminati.
No, it's actually a very innocuous business.
He was selling the eye with the pyramid.
I could say this. It's an entertainment venue. That's what I could say. That's not giving anything away because there are millions of those. So basically, creating this new entertainment venue sells all this really fancy limited edition shit to these very wealthy people who could drop 10 grand on this fancy shit. He gets a bunch of orders in. When the stock market crashes, like a third of the orders cancel. Not because they could no longer afford it, but because the cultural cachet of being a rich prick was gone. The rich people were afraid that the pitchforks were actually going to come for them, especially since it looked like Obama was going to win. That's how weakened they were. That's how in the palm of Obama's hand they were. He could have crushed them if he wanted to. That's what he was elected to do, and he didn't. And because he didn't, Donald Trump had an opening, and everything since is a result of their failure. Their failure, not working class men who are upset and are now going to sell their women down the river by voting for Donald Trump. It's such an obscenely condescending thing to say. It's such a disgusting thing to say. What a horrible person you have to be to say that. And what a fucking moron you have to be to clap for that in the audience. You have to have absolutely no understanding whatsoever of politics or of recent history or of economics or of fucking anything.
Well, they don't. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. These are the people who have Michelle Obama's memoir tucked under their arms.
Right. Yeah. Yep. All right. We'll let this go a little more.
The women listening, we have every right to demand that the men in our lives do better by us. We have to use our voices to make these choices clear to the men that we love. Our lives are worth more than their anger and disappointment.
Yeah, it's your husband.
Wow.
It's your husband's failure. Our failures are not our failure. Blame our failures, the Obama's failures, on the men in your life, on the men you love. Hate them instead. Don't hate us.
This is their closing pitch. They did that commercial with no women are going to date you. If you're not voting with all African Americans, and Obama, we're having a problem with the brothers. Yeah, with the brothers. Yeah, like you speak that way at home.
Just unbelievable.
It's just this is how Democrats think. They are an aristocracy. They think in terms of the fucking peasants. How dare you peasants not do what you're supposed to do? That's just their framing. That's how they think about the world. It is so ingrained in how they understand the public that they don't even think it through to, maybe that's going to be kind of off-putting to have a bunch of rich pricks talking down to voters. They so assume their right to do that. It doesn't occur to them that it might be counterproductive to their aims to do that.
Yeah. I mean, and this is even more insidious than that in a way. It's even more mean-spirited than that. It's turning families against each other. Turn the women in the family against the men in their family. Your rage is not worth my safety or my autonomy. Again, the Obamas were in a position to solve both of these problems. They had a mandate to solve both of these problems. They consciously chose to solve neither. And now what are they going to do? They're going to blame the peasants. Right. As you said, they're going to turn the peasants against each other to deflect from their obvious failure. It is sick. That is sick. It is a sick speech we should demand that the men in our lives do better. Why doesn't everybody demand that you do better? Ever think of that? Maybe you should have done better. Maybe we wouldn't be in this spot if you had done what you were elected to do in an overwhelming landslide with an overwhelming mandate. No, you can't say that. Can't say that to Michelle Obama or to Barack Obama. That's out of bounds. Really, really incredible. Really incredible. Chutzpah, as we say. The chutzpah.
The
on
chutzpah
Michelle
on them.
Obama. Yes. All right. Let's see here. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Keaton, you could have said rhetorically, I'm not questioning the integrity of Kamala's virtue. I'm just asking why does she have landing lights on her thighs? Hey, I had some other stuff that I was gonna do about Kamala.
He did. There was one. I can't remember what it was. I told you, don't do that one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, there was some stuff that I didn't do. So yeah, I did hold back. That was the PG-13 version of that speech. No doubt.
Believe it or not.
Believe it or not. Yes.
I hope people are gradually starting to figure out that I'm not the sick one.
Yeah.
It's not me.
I think maybe that's coming through. Bezos knows Harris about to get destroyed, says these bitches want Nikes. Thank you, these bitches want Nikes. Appreciate that. Lauren Kaminsky, thanks for the $5. Walking tour was amazing. I think I'm in love with Russell now. There you go.
Thank you. At least somebody is.
At least someone is. Daniel Hall, thanks for the $5. Imagine running your entire campaign on vibes, then showing up with really shitty vibes. Harris Walls 2024, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, for a campaign built on vibes, those are some pretty bad vibes. Good point, Daniel. Appreciate that. Quintessential, thoughts on LaGuardia, the FDR-style mayor? I'll defer to, wasn't LaGuardia was the guy who finally conquered Tammany Hall, right? I mean, he was the guy who broke the Democrat hold on the city.
Yeah, but that was also he was in the right place at the right time to do that, because New York in the 20s, it's the Roaring 20s. They had J.J. Walker was the mayor. You could find him hanging out at the Speakeasy next to the chief of police. That's how corrupt New York was at the time. Everyone thought it was funny. They just thought it was funny. When the Great Depression hit, it wasn't funny anymore. And that opened the door to a reformer like LaGuardia. LaGuardia was almost undoubtedly the greatest mayor we ever had. He was kind of the perfect mayor for that moment. He was multilingual. He was actually Jewish and Italian. Most people don't know that.
That's right.
He was a translator on Ellis Island. Grew up in Brooklyn. So he was a real product of the New York City of that era. And he was really the perfect person to guide New York through a very challenging time. So yeah, he was a great mayor. He was a great mayor, and they're trying to upgrade the airport that has been an embarrassment to his name for a very long time.
That's right. I want to force Rachel mad. I went to the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Is that wrong of me? Yes, Eric Rousseau. Kevin G, the movie Spotlight was overrated. An apologia for a useless mainstream media. Yeah, it was a pretty standard movie. That won Best Picture, though. Cool Blue, thanks for the $5. Rather than end their subscription to Washington Post, perhaps these famous people were in their citizenship here in the United States. Yeah, when are they going to move to Canada? Maybe. We'll see. I always thought I was a swinger because I like playground swings, and I was sort of right. Great tour, Russ. Thank you.
Thank you. As one of the things you will learn on that tour, or if you become a patron and watch the tour, the origin of the term swingers.
There you go. Abiding 71, LA Times non-endorsement due to apartheid genocide deserves a segment. Well, we gave it one. We gave it one. Thank you, Abiding. Appreciate that. Kenneth Tran turned 78 today. Wow. James, wow, look at that. I said, is that guy still alive on his birthday? What are the odds of that? That's interesting. James Carville turned 80 last Friday. Happy birthday, James Carville.
I can't put a whole pepper in my ass like I used to.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. Mamala for president. You two Bernie bros just don't understand that by canceling our Washington Post sub, we are fighting like warrior queens against tyrants. Look at how great we are. Intelligent, powerful, brave, white. There you go. Thanks, Mamala. Appreciate that. Ravid, thanks for the $2. Thank you, DD, for introducing me to Jose Vega. You both are amazing on Saturday. You corrected there. You go. Thank you, Ravid. Appreciate that very much. All right. So This next video is from the Kamala Harris rally in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Michigan, making a lot of news. Michigan feels like that state that could go sideways. Talk about vibes. Those are the vibes I'm getting. Here's Kamala Harris in the middle of her speech. Inside 10 days of Election Day now, protested yet again.
We are fighting for America's future, and we understand the opportunity we have before us to turn the page on the fear.
No more Gaza war, have you no decency, right? All coming apart one more time.
We are fighting for America's future, and we understand the opportunity we have before us to turn the page on the fear.
It's falling apart.
Great to see.
No, keep playing it. Keep playing it. She lit. Falling apart. Falling apart. She doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know what to do.
What can she
do?
do?
Know how to handle that. She has no idea. She has no idea because she is an empty vessel that they tried to puppeteer into the presidency. And at least at this moment, it looks like it's not going to work. It was always a long shot.
Yeah. You know, they're used to being able to bring these radicals, so to speak. They're usually able to cuck them by this point in the campaign. You know, within 10 days of the election, yeah, you threw your little tantrum about the primary being rigged and blah, blah, blah. But by this point in the campaign, we're usually able to say Trump enough and in as serious a tone of voice as to get you to bend the knee. But it's not happening this time. You know, it's very significant. We always knew there were going to be protesters on the campaign trail this season. We didn't know whether or not they would persist into this late into the cycle. And the fact that you were in this critical swing state of Michigan, you could see Kalamazoo, Michigan, the upper left-hand corner there, with less than 2 weeks to go, to have a protester like that show up is, I think, a hugely significant thing. And it's perhaps, and hopefully I will say, a foreshadowing of things to come. Because the Abandon Harris movement's goal is to cluster the state of Michigan. It is. We don't know what the final numbers are going to be. It's impossible. The polls are just too close. So we don't know what Jill Stein's vote total is going to be relative to whatever margin exists between Trump and Harris. But you are set up for a very, very close race there, with Jill Stein polling pretty well, representing that sentiment in the audience. I'm not speaking for that person. I don't know if they're who they are, if they're a Stein supporter, whatever.
Yeah.
But you're seeing in Michigan something that looks like a storm brewing, and it's been brewing for a long time. And for a couple months over the summer there, when Donald Trump was just stepping in dog shit every step he took, it looked like he might get away with this and she might pull this out in states like Michigan, which are still oriented towards Democrats. Don't forget, I mean, Trump's victory there was the only time Cool Blue could get you a number on this, but that was the only time Michigan has gone red, at least in the last 28 years, I'll say. I could say that pretty comfortably. So these are still traditionally purple but lean blue states. And in 2016, you started seeing signs of a crack in that blue wall pretty early on, and then you would see them resurface throughout the campaign. You're seeing the exact same thing here in Michigan, where you could very, very easily have a situation where this administration's support for this genocide cost them this race. And we're starting to see this more and more. I mean, foreign policy doesn't usually come into play in a presidential race as much as it should, but you're starting to see TV segments now. Kamala was asked, what do you say if you lose this election because of Gaza? Are you worried you're going to lose the election over Gaza? The fact that we're even asking that question means it is a strong possibility, given the tightness of the polls and given the demographics of a critical swing state like Michigan, where you got hundreds of thousands of Arab voters, very few of whom are voting for Kamala, most of whom usually vote Democrat.
Yeah. In hindsight, what they tried to do here was kind of ridiculous, and we already see reporting on how the Joe Biden camp is saying, "We told you so." But you know what? They're probably right. In the end, they probably did have a better chance with him, because what is this? What is this? What is this? This is somebody who didn't get a single vote. It's somebody who was not. This is a little abstract. You ever see the movie The Cooler? That's
No,
real.
but
Okay. So it's a guy who has such an unlucky vibe. He's such
They
a
send those to the
loser.
blackjack tables. I mean, I know
They
what a
pay
cooler
him
is.
to go,
Yeah.
and that's a real thing.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
a real thing.
Oh,
They
yeah,
really
the
are.
casinos really do that. Yeah.
All right, Kamala's a cooler, man. She's a cooler. Look at how all of her races went. Look at how her primaries went. She is not a winner. She is not somebody that can sustain voter interest long term. She came into 2020 with as much media accolades. The Libs were being programmed to support her in 2016. I know that because I never heard of Kamala Harris until Hillbot started saying, well, Kamala will probably have an easier time. Who the fuck is Kamala? They were already programming them to support Kamala in the next election. They tried. That's how much she sucks. That is how much she sucks, with that much support, with the Democratic Party base having been conditioned across decades to understand identity politics as the only valid form of politics, and as the progression of identity groups in position of power as the only meaningful way to measure political progress, and the entire media industrial complex behind her, and she still could not get to fucking Iowa. So here you go. Look, it looked good for a minute because people were just relieved to have Biden out of there, to not have to justify voting for Joe Biden. And, she can give a speech if she's got it memorized, if she's been coached enough. But in the end, it's a presidential race. There's only so far that can go. You can't beat something with nothing. Trump is something. Whatever you think of that something, it's something. She's nothing.
Well, yeah, I mean, the parallels to the Hillary Clinton campaign are kind of hidden in plain sight. Most fundamentally, perhaps, Hillary Clinton, for all the fanfare around her, had never won any election except a Senate race in a deep blue state. That's Kamala, too. What election has Kamala ever won but a Senate race in a deep blue state? She's never been tested in a real contest. Actually, that's not true. She has been tested and she failed.
And
she couldn't even make it to Iowa in the primary.
Horrible.
Right. That being said, Biden, there's, like I said, if she loses, and look, folks, it's 60-40 Trump now, according to the odds makers. I think that's about right. That is still toss-up bordering on lean Trump. This could absolutely go her way. There's no question about that. There are enough swing states. There are enough X factors. The race is not over by a long shot.
At this point, it would be a surprising result. At this point, you'd be surprised if it went that way.
I would be. I mean, it's surprising in the sense that it's less than 50-50, but it's not shocking if it went the other way. I'll say that. Not shocking. As for Biden, with the I told you soing and the Monday morning quarterbacking, we know if Kamala wins, they're going to be asking the question, should Biden have stayed in? There have been a couple of op-eds already speculating, should Biden have stayed in? If she loses. Sorry. Pardon me. The question to be asking, if you want a Monday morning quarterback, this is not should Biden have stayed in. It's should Biden have announced on Inauguration Day 2021 that he wasn't seeking a second term. That was the right thing to do for the sake of the Democratic Party. Not should he have stayed in. He should have been out from day one so they could have had a real primary, because that's what could have saved them this cycle. Once it got to Biden malfunctioning on the debate stage, it was too late. At that point, both hands are shit hands. We said that at the time.
Right.
You know, it's a
No-
lose-lose.
no good options at that
No,
point,
the idea that Biden would have fared better, I don't buy that at all. Biden was in danger of losing New Jersey. Biden was in danger of losing New Mexico. You're not hearing those kinds of stories anymore. Kamala has at least shored up the lean blue to blue states, right? It's not going to be a 400 electoral vote landslide, which was possible under Biden with what they were talking about. Virginia in play, New Mexico, New Jersey, Colorado. I mean, it could have been an absolute blowout. She signals Democrat enough to the point where she'll get enough blue votes in enough blue places. Biden, you couldn't even count on to do that. So yes, he is going to say that. You're right. What Trump said on the debate stage was true. He hates her. He's already a bitter prick about this. To the point where he's going to be, major I told you so, especially from Jill. If Kamala loses, you talk about shade. You talk about a cat fight. Damn.
He's very Nixonian. Yeah. Biden is very Nixonian. The guy who didn't go to the best schools, who nursed all these resentments about everyone who didn't take him seriously. This is really a very triggering turn of events for someone with his personality.
Yes. Oh, of course. Of course. But yeah, I mean, this happening so close to Election Day in Michigan, inspiring. Good for them. Good for them. Don't bend the knee. Don't fold. Keep protesting every day and everywhere. Absolutely. All right. JM, thanks for another thumbs up. Appreciate that. Thank you for your generous super chats and Rumble rants tonight. They're a huge help. Movie Magus 2, thanks for the $5. It was great to see Russ both at the tour and brunch. I wanted to chat today, but the brunch was running late. I will give the tour to my friends who visit. Thank you, Movie Magus. Beautiful. Sparky, fun fact, it's actually daylight saving time, not plural. Savings is like in savings account. Interesting. I always thought it was saving apostrophe S, not plural. Daylight savings time. That's what I always thought. But thanks, Sparky. Amadeus, forget guillotines, neo-libcons get scaphism. How do you say that word? I don't even know how to say that word. Do you know that word?
What?
SCAPHISM.
Escapism? Is he trying to say escapism?
No.
Escapism? Escapism? What?
Never heard of it.
I'd have to see it.
Never heard of it. Michelle started her speech sounding like my mom was about to whip my ass. Thank you, Coco Flo. Janice Anderson, thank you for the $4.99. Typical Democrats never own their own shit, just blame everyone and everything else for their own failures. The most reprehensible monsters ever. Thank you, Janice. Well said. David Giltinon, I hope I got that name right. Had to look a little closer. Thanks for the $5. Obama would never go after bankers, not when big banks are higher on the power totem pole than POTUS, yes, which is ultimately the empire's hood ornament. Yep.
Well,
absolutely.
Citibank picked his cabinet.
That's right. Amadeus, dead microbes are more of a person than neo-lib cons. Appreciate that. Sparky, they used to save the white man's burden condescending attitudes for peasants abroad. Now they use it domestically. Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate that. All right. I am the owl. Yes, locking workers in room is bad, but the real tragedy was that we made those poor business owners spend a whopping 2% more on costs to make sure workers don't die. Surrender to the communists. That's right.
That is the tragedy.
Surrender to the communists. Fuck my fucking life, says Furrows Queen. I'm making progress with my coursework, but now the power has gone off. Plunge into darkness. Small village life. Fucking marvelous. Well, you're still watching us. Are you, is your phone charged? Hopefully you got a nice charger.
He's using the last of his solar power for that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Big surrender to the communists.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully your phone stays on for us tonight. Thank you, Furrows Queen, and best of luck with the power coming back. It's a great feel. See, you live in New York City, so when you're in New York City, the power never goes out because the power lines are all underground. Very rare. I mean, it's very rare.
There have been incidents,
but it's very rare. Like with us, it happens a few times a year when there's a weather event.
All right, here's a really off-color story, and I'm not going to get into details. But the last time there was a blackout, what was that? 2003,
something like that.
I picked up a woman and we had sex on the floor of the lobby of the Marriott Marquis because it was so dark nobody could see it.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I don't know if you ever told that one.
Oh, I've never told.
In Times Square?
In Times Square, yeah. Yeah. Because nobody could go to their rooms. You weren't allowed because it was a fire hazard because none of the emergency measure. So it was like tourist tent city on the streets. but you were allowed to go into the lobby, but it was pitch black. So
You should make that part of your weird New York tour.
I should do a Midtown version. So I think it was this spot right here.
Yeah, I think it was this spot right here. Yeah. Ask
Don't
if anyone
worry,
wants
they've
to take a
cleaned the
selfie
carpet
there.
since then.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. How many properties does the Obamas own and where? Well, I know they got the Chicago and the Martha's Vineyard. They probably got a place in Hawaii too, right? Do they have a place in Hawaii? Do they have a place in Maui? Was that a story?
I don't know.
I forget. You'd think you would, right? I mean, that's his birthplace. Miserable Lib, Texas. I've always said that Obama is the greatest political con artist of our generation, yet his narcissism and gaslighting never ceases to amaze me. Thank you, Miserable Lib. Appreciate that. Let's see. Keaton, I'm late with this, but I have to say I think your David Duke theory is wrong. Think about who benefits from it, not Trump, right? I think Duke was paid. Well, what do you mean? Who benefits from it? Not Trump. No, but he said Jill Stein, because if he endorsed Trump, Trump would not benefit from it. By endorsing Jill Stein, it's a troll. I mean, you could be right. Is there any evidence he was paid? I'm just saying, like, what makes the most sense to me, absent any other evidence, is that he did it as a troll. That's what I think. I mean, you could be right. I don't know.
I've heard he's concerned about climate change.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Didn't he ask for eco-friendly hoods?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
pretty sure.
Yeah, reusables, biodegradables. Web Angel PB. Also, Savvy talked about Hakeem Jeffries' first race when the same thing happened to his opponent who was leading, and also to Jeremy Corbyn. Thank you, Web Angel PB. Appreciate that. Okay. We will move right along here. So we just covered Kamala Harris being protested over the genocide in Gaza at a Michigan event. Here's Donald Trump at a Michigan event receiving the endorsement from some community Muslims. Ryan Grimm tweets, surreal, Democrats are losing the Muslim vote to the Muslim ban guy. Also, they could keep sending weapons to a country flagrantly ignoring our gentle request to please slow down on the starving and slaughtering. Yep, that sounds about right. And here they are.
Good afternoon, Michiganders. As the president said, we just had a positive meeting with President Trump. We as Muslims stand with President Trump because he promises peace. He promises peace, not war. We are supporting Donald Trump because he promised to end war in the Middle East and Ukraine.
Well,
the bloodshed has to stop.
Yeah.
All over the world.
That would end it.
And I think this man can make that happen.
Okay, so that goes on for a while. We don't have to play the whole thing. You get the picture. Now, look, folks, I don't agree with this endorsement. But I think the significance of this is that you see Trump's strategy down the home stretch to expand his base, to expand his reach. We know that he has pretty much eaten Kamala's lunch on the Latino vote. Most recent polls show him beating Kamala outright amongst Latinos. I think certain missteps led him to underperform with black voters relative to what he could have done, but he's still doing better amongst black voters than any Republican in a long time. Kamala is cratering among young people and among Arab voters. So what is Trump doing? He's going and trying to expand demographically his base. Kamala's doing the exact opposite. Kamala's closing pitch is exclusively to never Trump Republican types. That's why she's touring around with Liz Cheney in Michigan. That was not missed by Donald Trump. So Laura Loomer tweets out, watch, speaking in Michigan, President Trump said Kamala's campaigning with Muslim-hating warmonger Liz Cheney. Here he is.
Is campaigning with Muslim-hating warmonger Liz Cheney.
who wants to invade practically every Muslim country on the planet. And let me tell you, the Muslims of our country, they see it
And
and
he's
they
saying
know
it
it.
properly, too.
Yes.
Her father was responsible for invading the Middle East, killing millions of Arabs, millions. And this is the one that Kamala is campaigning with. And I know Cheney very well. She lost by the biggest margin in the history of the United States Congress. Lost by almost 40 points. No sitting congressperson has ever lost by even close to that amount.
Is that
And now
true?
she's a primary
I can't imagine that's true.
endorser. You know, it's going to be very interesting on some of our basic issues. See if you can put those two together. They're just trying to win. They'll do anything to win, but that ain't going to work, that combination. But she's a warmonger.
So you have the Muslims coming up here endorsing Trump. Like I said, I can't really square the circle of Trump saying Biden's trying to hold Benjamin Netanyahu back when he should be doing the opposite, right? Like I said, we are post-duopoly on this show. I'm telling people to vote for Jill Stein wherever they are. Swing state, safe state, doesn't matter. So I think Abandon Harris has this right. I think if you are anti-war and anti-genocide, you have to be very disciplined not to vote for pro-genocide candidates, which Trump is, despite what they said there in the last video. But this, to me, is significant in what it says about the two campaign strategies in October. Trump is a closer. Trump is a closer. The guy does well under pressure.
ABC. Always be closing.
He gets his shit together under pressure. He seems to understand when the stakes are high and he can't fuck up. This reminds me a lot of 2016 when he was fighting with the Gold Star family, the Khan family, after the DNC, and they were cratering out in the polls, down by 13 points nationwide. And his inner circle said, we have to right the ship or we're going to embarrass ourselves. They got rid of Paul Manafort. They brought in Steve Bannon, and they righted the ship, and they won.
Kellyanne Conway.
And Kellyanne Conway, absolutely. She was very good on that campaign also. It seems like that Haitian migrant thing was a turning point. It seemed like that was when they realized, wait a minute, we're actually going to blow the most winnable election this century if we don't
guys,
make a
we're
change.
freaking out the squares.
Exactly, we're freaking out the squares. And they made a change, and now, I mean, Donald Trump going and calling someone a Muslim hater? I mean, like I said, the guy signed a Muslim ban. He said, he was asked in 2016, what do you think about Islam? I think Islam hates us. So given all of that, he comes out, and during the final days of the campaign, he sees the weakness. He sees Kamala's weakness. He sees she's tanking with Muslim voters. He says, God damn it, whatever I said in the past, I'm going to go and I'm going to get some of those votes. And here he goes. And this is why I think this is a big part of why the betting markets have broken in Trump's favor recently, is because he's closing well and she's doing the opposite. She's getting protests. She's getting heckled by Muslims at her events, and he's getting endorsements from Muslims at his events. I mean, who would see this? Like, it's amazing. Who would see that coming? Who would bet on that a year ago? If you said in October, I mean, post-October 7th, you could kind of see it coming. But if you go back, a year ago, a year and a half ago, okay, in the closing months of the 2024 campaign, the Democrats are going to get heckled by Muslims, and Donald Trump's going to be getting endorsed by Muslims on stage in October, a week before the election. You'd have never seen that coming.
Well, actually, if you go back to the early days of the show, I predicted that the vision that a lot of the liberal class was trying to push at that time, that it was everybody and heteronormative white people,
right,
was absurd, and that the contradictions of that understanding of the world were going to eat that movement alive eventually. And one of the things I would often point out is, Muslims tend to be culturally conservative.
Yes.
So in the end, it's not that I don't think, God bless you, go out there, fight against the Muslim ban, but I always felt that that was a very uneasy marriage. And that a lot of the liberals who were going out and fighting against the Muslim ban had this very Pollyanna-ish vision of the world, where everyone has common interests against the heteronormative white people, and you all have common interests. Greg Foreman on Black Conservative Perspective was pointing this out. He's absolutely right, and I've long said this. Culturally, the Muslims don't belong with the Democrats. Culturally, the Republicans are a much better fit for them.
The Muslim mayor in Michigan who endorsed Trump, one of his big issues as a mayor was campaigning against the LGBT pride flag.
Of course.
And so
yeah,
there you have
it. No, you're going to go. Well, we actually did that as a segment way back where I think it was Dearborn, where the white Christian parents and the Muslim parents were getting together about wanting to take these books out of the school. Yep. Not Toni Morrison, like, this book is gay. And the one of the fathers, he was giving a speech, he said, I wouldn't care if the book was called This Book is Straight. A book that gives instructions on how to meet people online does not belong in a school.
Right.
And they were making common cause. And we made that point at the time. Like, hey, man, what if you think that because they're not white people, they align with that agenda, that all the LGBTQ, the black, the brown, they're all on one side, and the white heteronormative people are. It was such a facile way to understand how the world works, and this is an example, I think, of it coming apart. This genocide in real time is the thing that triggered it, but in the end, that could very easily lead to a long-term realignment because culturally they never really belonged with that party. They were with that party because here you have Trump talking about Muslim bans, and here you have the other parties speaking
and you had the Cheneys who were Republicans who instigated the Iraq war, but now the Cheneys are going around with Kamala Harris.
Exactly.
In Michigan.
So why would they not go to the Republicans?
Right. Exactly, yeah. Yep, exactly. I mean, that is just, you talk about closing strong versus coming apart at the seams when it matters most. You got Kamala Harris going to fuck you. Michigan, you're underwater with Arabs already in Michigan. You take Liz Cheney to Michigan?
Liz, of all people.
Yeah.
Well, that really shows you they are just doubling and tripling down on the Chuck Schumer strategy, which failed in 2016.
Oh, yeah.
They're just going to try it again. For every blue-collar worker we lose, we pick up 2 in the suburbs. They're going for that.
The only votes they're courting now are the Republican votes. Yeah.
They want the white people in the suburbs because they disproportionately vote, and there are more of them than any particular minority bloc.
They are campaigning exclusively for the white conservative vote now. Not just whites, but white conservatives. They're campaigning for Republicans. They have not made an appeal to anyone but Republicans since. Yes, that's it.
Yeah, the Nicole Wallace vote. That's what they're trying to get.
Yep. To the exclusion of everyone else. Like, they're actually going out of their way to insult Muslims by bringing Liz Cheney to Michigan to the point where Donald Trump has an opening to actually get endorsements from Muslims in the home stretch of the campaign. Really, really amazing. Just an amazing election.
World, baby.
Yep, absolutely. All right, folks, we got one more segment on the night, and then we are going to rumble for the Q&A. Noah Goop. Trump is pure evil, but God, do I hope Kamala loses. Nothing will make me happier than seeing these scumbag douchebags implode. The entitlement and snobbery is revolting. Thank you, Noah.
I definitely am with Kim Iverson on that. I'm coming back around to it's going to be more fun seeing the Democrats melt down. It just is.
Well, look,
how can they be rewarded for what they have done?
Well, that's the thing. I didn't see Peter Dow tweet this, but Jimmy quoted him on his show the other night. And if Jimmy quotes Peter Dow, Peter Dow has a point.
I was just thinking that must have been one hell of a quote.
You must have had a good point if Jimmy is actually quoting him. I'm paraphrasing, but the challenge, because Peter's also said he hopes Kamala loses. And so how do you square that? If you're anti-genocide and Trump is pro-genocide, how can you take a position? And I think this makes sense. I think, politically, there's a logic to this. There's a principle to this, which is that you can't reward genociders, right?
Right.
So what that means is that you have to hope Harris loses. Now, when Trump takes office and he keeps sending Israel money, and this is the part, and we're going to do a segment about this tomorrow on the Jimmy Dore Show, this is when you're going to see the true colors of all these MAGA people who insist he's the peace candidate. Well, when he gets inaugurated and he shows he's not the peace candidate, are you going to come out and protest Donald Trump? Are you going to have the same smoke for Donald Trump that you had for Joe Biden and for Kamala Harris for overseeing the same genocide? That's going to be a real moment for you guys. You're going to have to get out in the streets and protest Donald Trump. And that's the logic. The logic is we destroy Kamala Harris because Kamala Harris has been enabling the great crime of our time. When Donald Trump is elected, if he continues that policy, we will protest him too, and we will work for his defeat as well. You don't reward genociders under any circumstance. So if Trump gets elected and he continues this policy, you have to have the same ire for him as you did for Joe Biden. Otherwise, you're just a hack. Right? So we will cross that bridge when we get to it. And that is the philosophy that's been embraced by the Muslim and Arab voters in Michigan. Now, they're not going as far as to vote for Donald Trump, but because they have to remain principled in their anti-genocide stance. But they're saying, we reject Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, but we're working to defeat Kamala because you cannot reward genociders, period. Exactly. That's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. And it's going to be a real moment of truth for a lot of people because, look, it's easy to be a flamethrower when you have no power. Right? It's easy to sit here and say, well, Donald Trump really is a peace candidate because of blah, blah, blah. He doesn't mean what he said here, blah, 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 blah. It's easy to do that because your candidate is not in power. He doesn't have the ability to prove you wrong because he can't do anything right now. When he gets that power and you have egg on your face, when he continues the genocide, what are you going to do? Are you gonna gaslight us and say he's not really doing it? Or are you going to protest?
A lot of them will.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be a real test. It's going to be a real test. So we'll leave it there for now. We'll have more to say on tomorrow's program about that. But miserable lib, they should have just programmed the Kamala bot to reset it in that situation to respond. It all started October 7th. Hamas babies, blah, blah, blah. Thank you, miserable lib. Noah Goop. I'm speaking was Kamala's basket of deplorables moments. When I see pigs like Stephen King wearing T-shirts with that as a slogan, I smile, knowing they're probably shooting themselves in the foot again. Indeed. Siddhartha Vicious, Russ makes the best movie references. Thank you, Siddhartha Vicious.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Cool Blue. When Biden flipped Michigan in 2020, his margin was plus 2.78 versus national plus 4.5%. First time since FDR, a Democrat won the presidency and carried Michigan with a lower margin versus the national result. See, that's the kind of analysis we need on election night. Right. That's why you're the man. That's Steve why you're the man, Cool Blue. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Fuck Steve Kornacki. You got Cool Blue. Electorally, for U.S. president, Cool Blue again. Path includes all three, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Tipping point state in 2016 and 2020 was Wisconsin. That's right. The trio has the longest streak voting for winners, 4 in a row. Since 2008. Thanks, Cool Blue. Appreciate that. They tried to sell Kamala like she was Gobbo from that episode of The Simpsons. I don't get that reference. Are you a Simpsons fan, Russell?
I mean, I haven't watched Simpsons in forever.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Hey, we got a great crowd here tonight. 2,600 strong in the YouTube chat, 1,800 strong in the Rumble chat. Please hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel.
I'm sure with the likes, we must owe them a maiden rant.
Yes, we do, actually. We owe them 1,267 likes. What a crowd in here tonight. Great to see you.
Next Saturday, man. I'm going to Maiden.
That's right. Next Saturday, Motley Jew hosting Russell for Iron Maiden in Brooklyn.
And so it comes full circle. My first ever concert, I was 13. It was Iron Maiden with Quiet Riot opening.
There you go. Look at that.
Madison Square Garden.
Madison Square Garden. Beautiful. Miserable Lib, mark my words. I still say the Kamala puppet wins, though it pains me to say it because I despise the shit dem elites more than Trump. All right. Thanks, Miserable Lib, for registering that. Obamas do have a home in Hawaii, according to JD. It's illegal in Hawaii to build walls to avoid waves, and in Hawaii, it's illegal as it destroys the environment. Ah, okay. Thank you. Obama's built it anyways. Interesting. Thank you. I thought they had one in Hawaii. I remember seeing a story about that. Must have been Jimmy's story. Power cuts out on the weekly here. If it's not plebs stealing wires from the mains and getting electrocuted, it's weather. Jesus, only 30% battery. Wow. Russ, did you see the woman before you picked her up? That's funny because it was a power outage. Good one. I like that one. Go ahead.
She just told me she had a particularly large clitoris.
Yeah. Yeah. It was easy to find even in the darkness. John N., thanks for the $10. I wish I could join all your extra stuff, but I just lost my median wage office job of 12 years. 55 years old. What am I supposed to do now? So much misery here after the back-to-back storms. Keep up your great work. Love from Florida. Thank you, John. And see if you send us an email. Maybe we can give you a little hook up there for your troubles. Thank you. James Turner, thanks for the $1.99. As Shia LaBeouf says, she will not divide us. Thank you, James Turner. Appreciate that. Yasim Miller, thanks for the $20. Part of me hopes Trump wins, not because I support him personally. It might be a wake-up call, a chance for libs to learn some important lessons from the result. Power ultimately belongs to the people, not the politicians. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Unfortunate, but probably true. People cut Trump a little slack on Palestine. Right or wrong, they'd say, well, his beloved daughter and son-in-law are Jewish. What do you expect? Yeah, well, like I said, it's going to be a moment of truth for a lot of people. Satanicus, thanks for the $5. Appreciate that. Fiercely Independent, thanks for the $2. Asks, have you guys been following Dan Osborne's campaign? I have not. I have not heard of him. No. Have you heard of him? No. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Ron McKinnon, thanks for the $10. Keith Olbermann should be cast in the title role of a remake of 1979 Steve Martin comedy, The Jerk. His instructions would be, Keith, just be yourself. Thank you, Ron. Escapism is an ancient form of execution. Torturous, says Janice Anderson. Thank you. That makes sense. Richard Canuck, thanks for the $10. Are the Dems going to invoke the 12th Amendment and 14th Amendment and claim that Trump is an insurrectionist and he can't be certified as president? That's interesting. You know, Russ said if they let him back in there, he's got to reevaluate his thinking about the deep state. So who knows? They may have something like that up their sleeve.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, and some people are saying, well, they tried to take him out twice and they failed. Okay. All right. Well, I was thinking about this the other day. Hey, all of our other institutions are shadows of what they once were. Maybe they just can't do a proper whacking of a presidential candidate anymore. Maybe he'll get in there on CIA and FBI incompetence. But that means they don't have the power they once did. They definitely wanted this guy gone.
Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious. We will keep moving along here. Just give me 1 second. I'm loading these videos again to certify here. Beautiful. Samar D, thank you for the $4.99. The endorsement at the rally is wild versus what we've been seeing in the past year of Muslims and Palestinians being kicked out at Kamala rallies. Exactly. They left an opening a mile wide.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep. Jenna Tills, thanks for the $5. Wild how a suddenly pro-Islam EV shunning McDonald's worker has Tulsi, Elon, and RFK as surrogates, huh? Yes, indeed. Indeed. Good point. Cool Blue. In 2020, Biden nationally carried Hispanic voters 65-32. For Trump, margin D plus 33. Thank you very much for that. Stoop sign. Hagman 66.3. Liz Cheney incumbent 28.9. 49,000 votes is because Wyoming's a low population state. So did she lose by the biggest percentage of any incumbent ever as a percentage? I mean, that could be, but you would think there'd be something in history worse, but I guess not. At least maybe modern history. Miserable Lib. Russ, according to CNN, Liz Cheney's defeat appears to be the second worst for a House incumbent in the last 60 years. All right, second.
Yeah,
worst.
But not of all time.
Not of all. Yeah, you would think. I mean, there's thousands of races. Sure. Yeah, going back before television, as Trump might say. All right, folks, one more segment on the evening. The internet is still recovering from Trump's appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast. Joe Rogan's Donald Trump episode racks up 26 million views in the first 24 hours, and that's on YouTube alone, folks, not to mention all the Spotify downloads, all the Twitter clips. Wow. This was a monster.
That's just YouTube? Wow.
Yeah, this was an absolute monster. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump's podcast interview with Joe Rogan has been viewed over 26 million times on YouTube in its first 24 hours. It is the most viewed podcast appearance so far for either candidate in the 2024 presidential campaign, and among the highest viewed Joe Rogan Experience episodes in history. Trump sat with Rogan for a full 3-hour podcast episode discussing topics ranging from UFOs, the alleged impact of wind turbines on the mental health of whales, to Trump's regrets in office, and his false claim that the 2020 election was stolen through widespread voter fraud. I got to go back and look at the whales thing because I must have just been distracted for that part of it. The Joe Rogan Experience is the most watched podcast in the world. It has 14.5 million Spotify followers and 17.5 million YouTube subscribers. Although Spotify and Apple Podcasts do not release viewership data for individual episodes, the YouTube views suggest it is one of the biggest episodes in the show's history and reached more viewers than other podcasts so far in the campaign. Rogan did not endorse Trump during the interview. Rogan has previously endorsed independent candidate RFK Jr. That's not exactly true. We just spoke highly of him to Trump's chagrin, who has since suspended.
That's never gotten in their way before.
Yeah, no, that's not exactly true, but they are interpreting it that way. Who has since suspended his campaign and endorsed Trump. So, yeah, no, Rogan did not formally endorse him, though Trump kind of nudged him to this piece of video here.
He endorsed me. By the way, he gave me the...
He's talking about Elon Musk, by the way.
Elon Musk, yes. He endorsed me. By the way, he gave me the nicest endorsement, too. The tough. He said, the country's going to fail. You should do the same thing, Joe, because you cannot be voting for Kamala. Kamala, you're not a Kamala person. I know you. I've watched you. I know him better than he is. You know what? Without speaking to you, I think I know you maybe almost as well as your wife. I have watched you for so many years. You're not a Kamala person. You're a Khabib person, but you're not a Kamala person. No, nobody's going to know who Khabib is, but
they know who
he was. He was not. He was.
Yeah. So trying to get the endorsement, trying to playfully nudge him there into an endorsement. In the podcast, Trump praised Rogan, calling him a fascinating guy, while the host praised the candidate's sense of humor. One of the beautiful things about you is that you freeball, Rogan said, telling former president that he thought his impression mocking President Joe Biden was funny stuff. Rogan said that he would be interested in doing an interview with Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris, but her campaign has since confirmed that she will not join him on the show before Election Day. So, yeah, look, this was a good decision to go on the Joe Rogan show.
Of course it was.
And, he actually, I watched enough of it.
Instead of listening to AOC, Bernie should have done that.
Well, he did go on. He went on. He went on.
Not after that.
Well, but he went on earlier in the campaign for like an hour. So, it wouldn't have been.
Was that in that campaign cycle?
It was in that cycle, yeah. Yeah. But that was an hour episode.
And AOC didn't lose her mind about that?
I guess not. But yeah, no, he sat for 3 hours and it was everywhere online. I made fun of it a little bit at my speech at Jose's rally. Because Rogan groveled. Rogan didn't give him any pushback on anything whatsoever. It was a little cringe in that respect, but that's not Trump's fault. Trump was great. Trump to have a 3-hour conversation, and they get into it was a very typical kind of Rogan episode where they start talking about what is the fucking thing he does? The UFC, the fighting. They start talking about their favorite fighters and boxing versus fighting. It put a very human face on Trump, who is portrayed in the media, especially this cycle, as, Hitler now 3.0. I guess 2016 was 2.0. Yeah. And so, it is disarming. He was very disarming because to have a guy just sit and talk loosely about sports and aliens and random shit, it is very much like you watch that and you really become less convinced that the guy is a larger than life evil because he has good interpersonal skills. You said your friend used to interact with him because he drove his father around when his father was sick. Keith Olbermann even said he was nice to him
Facebook.
in the lobby of the Trump Tower buildings. Keith Olbermann used to live in his condos. Like, he's a schmoozer. Even that thing there, I know you even better than you know your wife. He's schmoozing him. He's buttering up. He's good at that. He has a knack for that. And that came through here. And again, down the stretch of the campaign, making a lot of the right moves.
And I would also say, watching him over this last month or two, and by comparison with Kamala, it is that elite expectation. You get the sense with Kamala and the surrogates around Kamala that they think she should win by right. Trump seems like he wants to earn your vote. It seems like he's working for the job. It's very ironic, because what people always talk about with Trump is his enormous ego, and I'm not saying he doesn't have that. I think he has a little bit of a sense of humor, but yes, I'm a genius. I think there's a little self-parody in that. But the guy, he's already been the president. He's not taking it for granted. He's not acting like, you must vote for me, you little people. He's not the other side is.
Right.
The other side acts like that. Look at their idea of a campaign pitch. You men, the brothers have, look at their idea of how to talk to voters.
Yep.
Trump's not doing that. He's working his ass off, and he's not a kid. He's working his ass off to be the president. It feels like he's doing what you should do, auditioning. He's auditioning to be president. He's doing the job interview part of it. Kamala's not doing the job interview. She only started giving interviews because her poll numbers started tanking. If she could have gotten away with not talking to anyone, that's what she would have done.
Exactly. Yep. I agree. And we'll have more Rogan Trump stuff tomorrow on the Jimmy Dore Show. But we'll read some Rumble rants and super chats before we close the lights on the stream here. Q&A coming up on Rumble soon. So if you want to head over there, dudissidents.com/Rumble. That gets you to the after party where we're going to be heading in just a few short minutes here. But let us get to our super chats and Rumble rants before we end the show. As philosophy major in early 80s, I argued vehemently against relativism, saw identity politics coming, obscures material class analysis. Russell, only podcaster articulating this perfectly. There you go. Nice compliment from Mr. W there. Beautiful.
Thank you.
MAGA for Palestine gal, rescue the Republic here. Oh, that's also, you are the one. You are the MAGA for Palestine girl that Russell met out there.
Yeah, man. I keep saying man, I have that clip. We will show that clip on the show because it's very interesting.
Okay, cool.
We got to show that before. Actually, that would be good on Jimmy's show. I'll show it to you.
Okay, yeah, that might be fun. Hey, how would you like to be on the Jimmy Dore Show? We'll play your clip there, maybe.
Look, you just got an upgrade.
There we go. Yes, great. MAGA for Palestine gal here. You're goddamn right. We'll protest him if he continues the genocide. I'll lead it myself. Well, good for you. I appreciate that. We're going to hold you to it. But thank you.
She was carrying the sign at Rescue the Republic.
All right. Well, thank you. That's good to hear. That's very heartening. Thanks for watching. And hey, great to hear from you. That's awesome that you tracked us down. And great Rumble rants at a great time. Didn't mean to be tone deaf about other people's flooding and damage. Sorry if any offense. Just venting. No offense taken. I hate when the power goes out. I bitch endlessly when my power goes out. I don't think of anyone else when my power goes out. I think of my smelly armpits when my power goes out. When am I going to get the shower again? Because the hot water goes out. There's nothing better than this is what I was going to say earlier. You don't deal with power outages that much when you're in New York City. It's an event. For you, apparently, it's a hookup opportunity. But but for most of us,
listen, man, that was a very. I'll tell that story more at length another time. That was the best night in New York City ever. The night of the 2003 blackout, not just because I fucked a chick on the lobby of the Marriott Marquis. It was because of the tension from 9/11, that residual tension. that night wound up being a real demonstration of kind of community. It became a kind of party atmosphere. People were helping to direct traffic, like everyone was volunteering. People were just hanging out on the street, sharing beers. Like it was a really great energy and vibe that night. It was a lot of fun, actually.
Well, that was when the whole Atlantic seaboard was out.
Yeah.
But you know,
huge blackout.
yeah. What I was gonna say is, there's no better feeling than the power coming back after it's been out for a couple of days. You just feel like you're back. It's such a relief.
Yeah, that didn't come back until I think it was like the next day, like the next afternoon.
Yeah. So
after that.
my blackout story is more wholesome than yours. During that same
I don't see
blackout.
how it could not be.
Yeah, during that same blackout, when everyone was without power, all the businesses, all the stores, all the restaurants, so you couldn't do anything. The pizzeria that I grew up nearby, because my family, we had moved from the south side of town to the north side of town. And so we used to go to this pizzeria all the time when I was like a little kid, but we had never been there since because it was on the other side of town. It was kind of far. They, for some reason, they had power. They must have had generators hooked up or whatever. And so the entire community was gathered inside the pizzeria eating pizza. See, it's a nice small town, wholesome.
Yeah, you
blackout
had
story.
you had the bars put candles on the table,
Yeah.
and it was a very good vibe. People had like portable radios out on the street. They were dancing.
Yeah.
It was a very nice energy.
Trump mentioned old school pro wrestler Haystacks Calhoun on Joe Rogan. I guess that was pretty cool. Thank you, Sparky. Trump mentioned the polio epidemic in Gaza on Rogan. I appreciated that. Yeah, to which Rogan responded with perhaps the dumbest question I've ever heard an interviewer ask, which I will talk about on the Rumble side because our friends at the Gray Zone got a medical misinformation ding just for mentioning that. So I will tell you about that if you come over. Sparky, Trump mentioned raw earth elements a couple of times. He mentioned rare earth elements. Did anyone catch that mistake? Not really a big deal, but I wondered if Kamala's people noticed it. Interesting, Sparky. I didn't catch that either. Good catch, Sparky. Appreciate that. Let's see. Miserable Lib. I'm sorry, but watching the Kamala puppet sit across from Rogan and being taken seriously as a candidate for POTUS makes me feel like I'm watching an episode of The Twilight Zone. Yeah, it really is. I feel you.
Oh, yeah.
I sympathize.
Strange times, man. Strange times.
Absolutely. Sparky, worth reiterating, keep in mind Israel has killed many more Arab Americans than Iran. Remember the USS Liberty. Yep, you said that one at the beginning of the show, Sparky. Sparky's starting to double up on this live stream. Thank you for that. Appreciate that very much. Strive for balance, thanks for the $2. No justice, no peace. KNO justice, KNOW peace. Best is yet to come. Thank you. Fiercely independent. Dan Osborne is an independent running for U.S. Senate here in Nebraska. He's likely to win. Not going to caucus with either party. Check his campaign. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I will check his campaign. It's interesting to know. Ryan Laverty, thanks for the $49.99. Let's have a cowbell for Ryan. Appreciate that very much. Thank you. It's very generous. Ryan Laverty says, it's rare that I get to watch live. So since I have the chance, I'm making up for all the times I downloaded after. Keep up what you're doing as you make my drive in traffic to Naval Station Norfolk a lot easier. Well, thank you for that compliment and for the generous donation, Ryan. Glad we make your drive a little better. Andrew C., thanks for the $4.99. J.D. Vance had a good sense of humor on the Tim Dillon show, but maybe the Dems don't care because they already have election forfeit. Interesting. Eric Maines, thanks for the $20. After seeing the Obama's reactionary response to people who annoy you, I'm certain Randy Marsh from South Park can now hand over the crown for worst instinct to them. It's a funny joke. Yes, that was a classic South Park moment. Sparky, the NYC power outage thing Russell mentioned caused a bunch of births 9 months later. Had a power outage experience similar to Russell's in South America. There you go. Did a birth result from that? Or did you squeak out?
Did you bag it?
Did you bag it? Moral of the story, blackout in New York, community spirit, people volunteering to direct traffic. Russell over there shagging a bird with clitoris, duly noted. Thank you very much. Shagging a bird. That's a British thing. A bird. Yes, a bird.
I will look, actually that's a very interesting story. I will tell that story at some point. Like there's more to it just that. It was were a lot of events that led up to that. I was literally on the subway on the way to work when the blackout hit. If that blackout had hit 5 minutes later, I would have had a very different night. I would have been in the tunnel.
Yeah, that would have been pretty miserable.
The blackout hit right when I was at the last station before you go into that tunnel from Queens to go into Manhattan, and the doors were open.
Wow. Look at that. All right, folks. Well, that is our show. We appreciate you being here, everybody, very much. We had a great crowd tonight. Thank you all so much for sticking with us. Why don't you come hang out with us a little more? Patrons, paid Substack members, Locals members, you have call-in access to the upcoming Q&A. Everyone else is welcome to watch and hang out and shoot the shit a little bit before we close the lights for good. If you're not coming to the Q&A, we'll see you tomorrow on the Jimmy Dore Show, 6 p.m. Eastern, back here on the main show, Tuesday at 2 p.m. Please hit that like button on the way out. Smash that subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Smash the follow button if you're on Rumble. 5-minute intermission. Q&A starts then. If you're not hanging out for that, we'll see you tomorrow on Jimmy's Show and back here Tuesday. Until then, thank you very much for being here. Pleasure being with you all tonight. Be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.